Okay. All right, looks like we're live.
Whoa, you invited, but your friend can't come.
Good morning, Vietnam. Something like that.
Nobody beats the Wiz. Nobody beats the Wiz.
So how was the Wiz? You know what? I'm gonna Google the Wiz. I'm gonna Wikipedia the Wiz. No, the Wiz film. No, the Wiz store. The Wiz used to be called Nobody Beats the Wiz, and then they changed their name to the Wiz. The chain was founded by four brothers: Stefan, Lawrence, Marvin, and Douglas Jamal. Oh, Syrian Jews. Jamal. In New York City in 1977. Later, it officially changed its
Really,
name.
I thought they were black guys that were inspired by the movie The Wiz.
Douglas Jamal is a real estate developer, landlord, and founder of Douglas Development. 79 years old, Syrian Jewish family from South Brooklyn.
Huh.
Moving right along, real estate. Buffalo real estate. Alrighty. It officially changed its name to its well-known advertising slogan, Nobody Beats the Wiz. During the early to mid-90s, Nobody Beats the Wiz was a major sponsor for many local New York sports franchises, including the Yankees, the Knicks, the Mets, the New Jersey Nets, Rangers, New Jersey Devils, and Islanders, and in other areas, Baltimore Orioles, and had a significant television advertising presence during local sports events, including the infamous Jeffrey Mayer incident during Game 1 of the 1996 ALCS. It also sponsored teams outside the New York area, such as the Flyers, the Whalers, and the Canadiens. In 1996, the company threatened legal action against the Major League Soccer franchise, the Kansas City Wiz, who were renamed the Wizards as a response. 1998, after having expanded from roughly 20 stores to over 8 stores in less than a year, I think that's our friend. No? Hello, you still there?
I'm here.
Okay, I thought that was me. The chain filed for bankruptcy and was purchased by Cablevision for $80 million. Cablevision eventually dropped the Nobody Beats the Wiz slogan. At its peak, the firm's revenues were $1.4 billion, that's revenue, with 2,000 employees, operating 94 stores in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Maryland, and Massachusetts. It also operated music-only stores in Maryland and the Washington, D.C. area. The chain closed.
Right, they sold music too. That's right.
Yeah. The chain closed permanently in 2003. Cablevision press release from February 2003 stated, continuing to operate the stores is no longer a viable option for Cablevision. I guess this is Dolan's father, as business conditions at the retailer eroded due to a weakened retail economy. This is right before the Iraq War. Another factor is once the chain closed, and one of its founders, Marvin Jamal, opened the new electronics chain, The Zone. I think I remember this, in a number of former Wiz locations. And the new chain, which heavily mentioned that it was from the founder of the Wiz, went out of business less than 2 years later. September 2003, competitor PC Richard purchased Wiz assets mainly for its name. In the Seinfeld episode The Junk Mail, Elaine Benes dates Jack, a man with whom she has a love at first sight encounter, owing to his appearance as the Wiz in a Nobody Beats the Wiz commercial. Hold on, let me write to our friend. Join us. We are live. Join us when you can.
Did you shop strawberry today?
Yes.
Did you shop strawberry today?
Check this out. In 2013 film The Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort suggests answering a classified in the local paper looking for a stock boy at the Wiz. He is dissuaded by his wife. And in 2021, New York Yankees broadcaster John Sterling began to explain Nobody Beats the Riz after a home run by first baseman Anthony Rizzo. The jingle is interpolated in the chorus of Biz Marquis' hit Nobody Beats the Biz. Biz substitutes the Biz for the Wiz. The Wiz was rumored to have sued Biz Marquis for infringement, but this was not the case. Oh, baby, you got what I need. And you say he's just a friend. Oh, baby, you.
Oh, baby.
In Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock's 1988 hit, It Takes Two,
Yep.
referring to his album Bass Raps, go to the Wiz and select it, take it off the rack. If it's whack, put it back. In the episode Veiled Threat from the show King of Queens, Doug, in a flashback to his wedding day, mentions wanting a wedding gift of a CD player from the Wiz. It's season 12 premiere of the show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. One of the characters suggests Carrick's suggestions to switch back to their old bodies is to go to the store The Wiz to fix Dee's VCR since they were watching the film The Wiz at the time. That's funny. That's all you get. And all these locations, I mean, it doesn't say here, but all, I mean, at least the one I know in Garden State Plaza became, what's it called? Best Buy. Here. The Wiz, nobody beats The Wiz. 1 second. So how do you think they got beat?
With the Wiz,
Yeah.
they got beat by people who don't want to have small retailers. I know that the Wiz wasn't a small retailer, but compared to what's going on nowadays, it is.
Mhm.
Like they wanted to consolidate everything, right?
Yeah.
People we're dealing with right now, people trying to kill us.
Yeah.
So the Wiz was just one of the casualties of that whole process.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's what I think.
Well, I want to read to you about this Douglas Jamal guy who used to own it. It's interesting. I'm always interested in these Syrian Jew stories. He was born in Brooklyn. One of 4 sons and 2 daughters of Norman Jamal, a discount retailer in Manhattan, aka Schmata guy. He dropped out of high school. And his first foray into retail began in the 60s when he and his younger brother Lawrence, all these people are named Lawrence and Florence and Clarence.
Yeah.
All the Syrians, you know, opened a store called Bargain Town. Speaking of Daffy Dance.
I think they're trying to make up for the Arabic sounding last names.
Yeah. Jamal Gindi Dweck
Yeah.
in Washington, D.C., and soon after, a discount electronics store. In 1976, they returned to New York with their newfound expertise, and along with 2 other brothers, Marvin Jamal and Stephen Jamal, founded the discount electronics chain Nobody Beats the Wiz.
That's like Norman Mitsubishi.
Yeah. The name of their father's favorite Broadway musical. Douglas sold the share back to the family in 1993. The chain went bankrupt in 1997. Real estate. Jamal took the proceeds and began investing in Washington, D.C. real estate, which was opportune as the city was in the midst of a down cycle. Watch Dave Chappelle describing DC, inner city DC down cycle. I guess you could say that. His success was compounded by the fact that he recognized that retail was underpresent in DC, with half of the national average of retail space per capita, and focused his efforts on high-end retailers. He's also known for borrowing heavily to support his purchases and paying his contractors late to fund even more purchases. Riding the wave of DC's gentrification, he developed over 10 million square feet of space through 2007, transforming the East End neighborhood near the Verizon Center, that's where the Capitals play, the Navy Yard neighborhood of Anacostia River near Nationals Park, the Shaw neighborhood, and Chinatown into lively areas of mixed retail, restaurants, and housing. Who knew it was a Syrian Jew that made all that? He has been criticized for sitting on derelict properties rather than developing outright, as well as charging very high rents and forcing out long-standing local tenants. Are you still there?
I am here.
His method of doing business led to numerous lawsuits and federal investigation and charges. In 2006, he was acquitted on federal charges of bribery, conspiracy, and tax evasion, but convicted on the charge of wire fraud. The wire charge conviction involved the taking of a loan with his business partner and uncle of his son-in-law, Joseph Kyrie. Jamal took the proceeds from the loan and used it to support the purchase of another property, unbeknownst to his business partner. Am I Farrakhaning this person right now?
You're doing more than Farrakhaning. First of all, you're Farrakhaning. Second of all, I did not expect to get into the whole history of the Wiz. I just wanted to sing the song.
Oh, listen to this. On January 20th, 2021, 2 weeks after January 6th, Jamal received a pardon for his 2008 wire fraud conviction from President Donald Trump. They probably knew each other for years.
Yeah, I mean, they're
Years
both,
and years and years and years.
they're
Going
both
back.
real estate dudes in New York.
They Jamal maintained a very relaxed and freewheeling image, presenting himself in cowboy boots and riding a motorcycle. His sons Norman Jamal and Matthew Jamal are now active in the business. His daughter.
I want to make a statement.
Uh-huh.
Any story that I've heard
Uh-huh.
about literally anybody in places like New York, or Chicago, LA, right? Anybody who was like convicted of this or convicted of that,
Uh-huh.
I completely negate anything I've said before. I don't trust anything that comes from the supposed justice system
Yeah.
at all.
Right.
I'm sure that a lot of the people who come out innocent are guilty, and a lot of the people who were pronounced guilty
Hmm.
were really innocent, or they were guilty of like pissing off the wrong politician or the wrong whatever, not bribing this guy, right?
Yeah, that's
If you
true.
don't bribe, you get
Yeah,
punished.
yeah. It's like a lighter version of like what happens in Russia or Ukraine. Can I read to you real quick? Just I'm not gonna read the whole thing. I'm just gonna read this one part that I just noticed of this Kyrie guy. I guess that's his uncle or whatever, in-law, uncle-in-law.
Yeah.
Listen to this. In early 2001, he partnered with Larry Silverstein and Lloyd Goldman to purchase the lease of the World Trade Center from the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey for 3.2 billion. So it's like this Syrian Jew.
Yeah.
The partnership was required to post $800 million in fees and down payments to win the deal because it's just a lease. Goldman and Kyrie posted a combined 110 million. Silverstein contributed 14 million. Westfield America, that's the people who own, that's Westfield Malls, Garden State Plaza.
Yeah.
Contributed $127 million. Westfield controlled the retail mall at the Trade Center also. Oh, I didn't know that. And $563 million was borrowed from GMAC financing. Goldman was to receive 25% of the management fees. In 2006, I don't know who Lloyd Goldman, I don't know if he's not no relation to Goldman Sachs. His share was increased 50%. He will take over control of the project from Silverstein in 2016. Dude, Silverstein is the guy who's on video. Literally, they made a video of him, this Larry Silverstein guy, talking about how, Building 7 was
demolished.
Yeah, here's another. You want to talk about, they say the copy, the tutti copy, this is the Farrakhan of all Farrakhans right now. Here.
No, but this is not Farrakhaning. This guy's he's trying to tell the truth.
Okay.
Right? He's not. So you're not. I mean, this is not a bad guy. He's trying to do the right thing.
Here. I think this is
any damage to the buildings. It was my obligation to repair the damage or replace whatever is necessary to do it as quickly as possible, like kind, like quality.
Oh, he's talking about redeveloping. No, this is like NBC. This is BS. Oh, I want to get to the part. Steve, Larry Silverstein, Tower 7. Oh, it says no, comma. The owner of World Trade Center Building 7 didn't admit it. Oh, God. You know what I wrote today? You know what I wrote exactly this today on Twitter. You know what I wrote? Just real quick, I want a quick aside. I wrote, every time I see a headline that starts with the word no and then a comma, I know that the truth is literally the opposite of what the headline says. No, comma, ... is the calling card of NPC journalists.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I saw one that literally did just the other day that said no, ... It's not true that that gas prices were lower during Trump. Do they think we can't remember?
Dude, it's literally whatever they say. It's like 100%. I don't know. It's just here. Demolition. I don't know. Whatever. There was a big concern. There used to be a video. I don't know where the hell it went. There you go. Yeah, I also saw it. Here you go. 9/11. Here you go. Pull it wrap. Yeah, there you go. This is it. Oh, here.
Contain the fire. I said, we've had such terrible loss of life. And this one thing to do is pull. And they made that decision. They made that decision to pull. Because then we watched the building collapse. They made that.
It's just like a rap video somebody made. But the kids they made the decision to collapse the building.
That was really obnoxious. Whoever made that video.
Yeah.
I can barely understand what the hell's going on.
The kids he admitted that they I guess they got the people out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sty says he needs 20 minutes. It's all good. Yeah, so
let's disinvite him.
1 second. What else is there about this guy? Anything else interesting that has to do with anything famous? No, that's basically it. Interesting. So another Syrian Jew owns, he's 80 years old by now, owns part of the lease to World Trade Center.
So he still is part of the.
Yeah. And then you have this Lloyd Goldman, nothing to do with Goldman Sachs. He is now the president of American Associates of Ben Gurion University of the Negev. He is a trustee of the North Shore Long Island Jewish Health System, which that's I guess that's good. Well, actually, I don't. In light of everything we've been talking about, probably not, because he's probably for the whack shmeen. Goldman was an investor in a group that purchased 110-story Sears Tower in Chicago for $840 million with partners, whatever, 3 other guys. Dude, I don't know where. I always wonder, like, the Jewish guys, right? The Jewish guys, they're not part of the blue blood whole situation. These guys started essentially with nothing, a lot of them, and they built up stuff to like hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions.
Yeah.
That's a legit statement. You know what I mean? Like what I'm saying right now. Like, it's not like what the guys you're talking about, the people that are like, there's no way that they,
Please explain.
I'm saying, like, sometimes like when we talk about these billionaires, right? And you'll say, like Musk, for example, you'll say like, there's no way that this guy started this out of a garage and and all this kind of stuff, right? And you'll give us.
I'm saying like something like the Wiz. If you fight really, really hard, right? And you're just like you're like a beast. You know what I mean? In the good way.
Yeah.
You're just relentless. You could build yourself up. You can create a chain of stores in a tri-state area. You could be a billionaire, right?
Yeah.
But we're not talking about that kind of guy. We're talking about like $150 billion out of nowhere.
Yeah.
For no reason.
By the way, our friend Mr. Stiles, speaking of building yourself up, our friend Mr. Stiles here. He's connecting and he's here.
What's up, guys?
Hello, Mr. Stiles.
Hi, I'm disinviting you.
You guys move fast.
I feel like you're gonna interrupt the flow.
No, he's not. You know why? Because here, Alex, I have. We were just talking about Syrian Jews, who we didn't know that they owned all this stuff. We knew they owned certain things, but we didn't know that they owned like where they invested in, like, for example, Larry Silverstein, the guy who bought the lease for World Trade Center. So a guy who went in with him on that was a Syrian Jew.
Yeah, these guys have been around.
It's crazy.
This country. It's like the Jews that come earlier to this country are just richer.
Yeah.
It's like relative.
You know
They've
what
been here.
Lee Iacocca said? He
No.
said like what was it? It was like the Jews didn't just bring matzo balls, and the Italians didn't just bring pizza.
Yes.
I'm not sure what he meant by that, but it feels like some kind of wisdom.
I'm tagging a friend of mine who does a lot of business with Syrians, and he might be interested in this conversation.
I happen to daven in a Syrian shul.
Which one? Avenue S or whatever?
No, so my shul where I daven, Rabbi Milstein, happens to be a Syrian minyan. The hashkafa and the seder and the davening is Syrian, so half the shul is Syrian guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he's himself Ashkenazi, but his original intention was to have a shul for the Syrian community for people that are not so connected. And half the shul is like hardcore Syrians, and the other half is a bunch of Russian Kafkazi guys.
That's funny.
And me.
What's a hardcore Syrian?
What's a hardcore Syrian? Like they daven very much the Syrian Nusach of Sephardim.
Yeah.
They have the thick Syrian accent. They sell textiles.
Yeah.
The young guys show up in Porsches. I mean, that's hardcore Syrian.
Dude, did I ever tell you the story of how I was a mashgiach on Pesach in Mexico, Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, for like bazillionaire Syrians who rented? Basically, they rented out a whole resort. They do this every year. Actually, very, very nice people.
Extremely nice. They're menschlich. They're
measure-
family oriented.
But
They'll
these guys
kill you if you marry a convert. You know.
yeah. No, but I'll tell you about these guys. Most of them, like I think not most of them, almost all of them were not frum. The only frum people there were the organizers. However, they care very much about kashrut, kosher. We had to really make sure that everything was on the up and up, obviously. But I don't know. It was just, it was weird because we're, here we are doing the Seder, like out, kind of by the pool, outside, whatever. And I'm looking around and all these people, they don't even know, like, some of them, let's say Netilat Yadayim, washing the hands, they don't know the brachas. I'm just like surprised. I was like it took me for a loop, because I was used to actually the Syrians that keep Shabbat. Those are the ones that I had been around before. And these are the guys.
Some of those guys, when they go rogue, they go rogue. Like,
yeah,
they do it
you're
right.
saying rogue as in like frum.
Like, away from frum.
But,
And it's interesting because
these guys aren't rogue. This is a whole community of people who are not frum. They only care about kosher, but everything else they were just like on their phones, everything. It was interesting.
it's interesting because in the Syrian community, they usually tend to marry within their own community, but if for whatever reason they tend to go Russian. I've noticed that a lot. Like a lot of the Syrian guys will marry the Russian, marry the Russian girls.
We're similar.
I don't know if that's any
The
connection.
guys
to
will marry the
fact
Russian
that-
girls.
I remember in Magen David Yeshiva on Kings Highway.
That was the people.
That was like their main yeshiva. The
yeah.
guys.
It still is.
Some of the kids would drive up on BMWs.
It's crazy.
And the rabbis would drive home on ratty little bicycles. I remember.
Yeah. No, but you're saying that like the guys will marry, the Syrian guys will marry Russian girls, but what I notice is that they will not allow.
You don't have Russian
guy
guys
marry Syrian girl. Yeah.
Never happened.
Funny how it works like that, or doesn't, or not.
I don't know. Century 21, Rainbow.
Yeah.
That's all Syrian.
It's coming back, by the way. They just announced that they're going to bring back the
Dude,
Century.
I can't even picture a Syrian girl. I can't even remember seeing if I've ever spoken to a Syrian girl.
They look like, dude. Okay,
Didn't you grow up in a Syrian neighborhood?
I did, but I can't.
They all look like Kim Kardashian.
I think I would remember that.
Kidding.
No.
You know that they invited Kim Kardashian to one of those years, one of those Pesachs? It was crazy.
They tend to be heavy. They look very Sephardi looking. There's like, I don't know.
Why did I see LeBron James at a Jewish wedding with Rabbi Pinto? What the hell?
Because he goes to Pinto. He goes to him.
You know something? It's amazing you bring that up.
Mhm.
I was having dinner last night, and
That is
the
amazing.
guy came up to me and my buddy who I was having dinner with, my friend Carlos, who's a funny guy. And it's funny, whenever I go out with Carlos, like everyone just talks to him and ignores me as if I don't even exist.
He's like
Good.
he's a
Good.
skit. The guy's a walking skit.
Good.
Oh, you met Carlos. You met Carlos.
I
You
know.
met Carlos at a couple of days
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
So this guy comes up to at the table, doesn't look at me at all. Looks straight at Carlos. Like, I want to ask you a question. What you think? And he asked, "What do you think about this LeBron James anti-Israel guy going to this wedding?" And like he was really like upset about it.
Yeah.
Like, how can they have him at a Jewish wedding? And it really bothered him. And I know it kind of bothered me that it was bothering him.
Uh-huh.
Like the community, Schottenstein, that fame, was like the Talmud family. They make the art school Talmud.
Yeah.
Invited him, supposedly like business partners or whatever. So he invited LeBron to the wedding, and for some reason it created some kind of uproar in certain pockets of the Orthodox community. How dare he?
Yeah.
How dare he?
I think that's
Well, LeBron famously screwed over the Jewish owner of the Cavs when he left the first time, and he also screwed over. He threw.
What does that have to do with him being an anti-Semite?
No, so a lot of people in the front community perceive. I'm not saying it's correct. They perceive that LeBron might be an anti-Semite.
So he pulled a Jew thing on a Jew.
Exactly.
I hate to say it that way, but it's just the reality what we live in.
He Farrakhan.
why are you, Stuyvesant? Why are you falling on this Farrakhan bandwagon?
What's Farrakhan? Mazan.
Farrakhan is when you expose the bad dealings of Jews in public.
Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. I take it
But
back.
no, that's actually not what Farrakhan does. He does it, he adds some stuff too. He'll find something that's not quite good, and there's, unfortunately that exists,
Yeah.
but then he makes some shit up on
Yeah.
top of that.
True.
That's what Farrakhan is, okay? Can I ask you a question? What, like, LeBron has made like a lot of anti-Israel like statements.
Yeah.
Is that correct, or was that fake?
He didn't make anti-Israel statements. He made a lot of woke statements. Some like nothing to do with Israel.
Right. So I don't understand what is someone who has this like all these woke sensibilities doing, hanging out with people who are not supposed to have those.
I'm gonna answer, Frank. I'm gonna answer your question with a question. Why are there kids our age and younger in Crown Heights who grew up Lubavitch who are leftists?
That's a completely different like situation.
Different, similar.
It's not similar at all. I don't see. Can you explain the similarity? Explain that.
The similarity is that there are woke people who think that that Torah values are somehow, some way aligned with wokeness.
Yeah, but you would think Rabbi Pinto would illuminate him that that's not the case, right?
Rabbi Pinto also said to take the shwaka sieve.
No, I understand, but you would expect a rabbi. He is an Orthodox rabbi, right?
Yeah.
You would expect him to say, no, we don't. Those are fundamentally against basic Torah concepts.
Do you remember that song in the 80s or in the 90s? That song, it's called The Adventures of Stevie V, Dirty Cash, parentheses, Money Talks. Remember that song?
Money talks.
Money
Dirty
talks,
cash, I want
dirty cash, I want you.
dirty cash.
I just gave you kind of the shot answer to your question.
All right, so you're saying it's just pure corruption. All right.
I don't know. It could be one of the things. I can't.
That's literally what you just said. But okay, all right.
It's a speculation. I don't know.
I mean, he's partners with this Jewish Schottenstein guy. He invited him to the wedding.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Since when are we supposed
LeBron was
to
getting
exclude people from Jewish? Are we like?
It kind of like
I'm just wondering. I ended up in a conversation with this guy, and somehow this conversation.
The photograph made it look like like they're buddy. Like
the thing is, this is not the first time that they met. There was a whole thing that he was going to him for like brachas and like advice for a while.
Yeah, I heard about that.
You know that, right? It's not. I wasn't surprised by this because I was like, yeah, I know LeBron used to go to Rabbi Pinto. It wasn't shocking. So like,
it's odd.
We ended up in a conversation with a guy that is somehow connected to this.
okay.
How in shul, who's worse, the talker or the shusher?
Oh my goodness.
Before I transition to the LeBron thing, how that's connected, do you guys have an opinion on this question?
The talker is worse because they're in shul. The shusher he got more moral high. I guess he's technically in the moral high ground because you know what? Get your ass out of shul. If you want to talk, go out of shul.
I had two friends. I remember I was like in a minyan with two of my friends, and one of them was like talking to me, but like in like a shopatum, like a whatever, whispering to me. And then the other friend is literally shushing him, but louder than the whispering. And then it turned into a thing of like the guy who was whispering got upset at the guy and my friend who was shushing him, and he's just like, "Stop shushing me!" And then he's like, "Dude, we're down." And like it turned into this whole thing of like they just got progressively louder against each other.
I'm just gonna interject. I believe humbly that a shusher is worse than a talker.
Could be.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because the talking is like, yes, we all agreed you should not talk in shul during davening, ideally, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I'm davening and I hear some people talking in the background, I'm trying to daven. Okay, so it happens. It happens. People can't control themselves. right? But then when the shusher starts shushing, he's like the loudest person in the whole room. That's the actual person that distracts me from my davening. It's like abrupt, and it's like the only person that person is helping is himself, and he's not even helping himself. He's just distracting everybody even worse.
Okay, now it's my turn. Okay, I'd like to qualify.
No,
what
I'm
I
almost
said.
done.
No,
I'm
no,
almost
no,
done. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. If you want someone not to talk and shul, you take him to the side. You say it. You start shushing in the middle of the whole shul and disrupting everybody even
It's kind
worse.
of a thing, yeah.
It's
I
a,
was
kind
in.
of
I
like a
only have
Guyver
one.
thing. It's kind of a Guyver thing. It's kind of
Alex,
like
I have one thing to say
shut
to
the hell
you.
up. Leave the shh.
No, remember?
I hate the
from
shushers, bro.
remember
The shushers
Encino
are the
Man?
worst.
In
I
Encino
don't
Man?
like shushers.
Now it's my turn.
I don't hate the shushers.
Do you remember Encino Man? Shush.
Shush. Yeah, hold on a second. Hold on. That's not. You told
And
me
he
that.
has no moral high ground. Impossible to have moral high ground. Because the talker can't control himself because
Alex,
he's
This
just a
sounds like
talker. A
this is like
shusher
Larry
needs
David.
to be
Alex,
the
you are a
righteous guy,
professional
puts him
lawyer.
in his place. He's
Alex,
embarrassing him
you
publicly.
are really a professional
He's
lawyer.
embarrassing.
You created a
He's-
beautiful
He's
straw man.
embarrassing him publicly.
Could you shut up for a second?
Tell me you're not embarrassing somebody by shushing him. Are you embarrassing
Shush.
somebody?
Shush. Listen, obviously, when I was saying that the
Don't
shusher
be the shusher.
has a moral high ground, I was obviously talking about someone who's shushing a loud speaking person. If the shusher is louder than the person speaking, then obviously the shusher is annoying. My issue is volume, is being disrespectful and making noise while people are davening. If the shusher is louder than the speaker, obviously the shusher is the idiot. So you don't make it seem like that's what you know what I mean? Like you.
All I'm saying, there's something about the mentality of a shusher that doesn't have any moral high ground. That is all about him.
It could be.
No, I've seen.
It's all about them needing to be the one responsible for put the talker into place, and who gives up that everyone else is going to be
This sounds
distracted by
like
his
this
shushing.
sounds like Larry David would make an episode about this if he cared about going to shul. This is what this
So the
sounds like.
point I made to this guy, I asked him this question about the shusher and the talker. Now you have this chorus of Jews screaming, "Oh my gosh, LeBron James went to the wedding."
Yeah.
They're the shushers.
Yeah. Could be. Could be.
It's a shusher mentality. It's like this mentality the Jewish people had that it's their responsibility to put all the other Jews in their place.
It's like pointing fingers.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem. And
Dude,
I hate to say it,
I've
not
never
just left
shushed-
to right, it's right to
I've
left.
never
It goes
shushed
both
anybody,
ways.
but I have seen the need for shushing. Sometimes people are out of their mind with disrespect, and those motherfuckers need to be shushed.
Pardon.
Correct. Yes, you are right. But who is the one that has the
Who's the ringleader?
moral high ground?
Who's the ringleader?
Whoever has the balls to do
Who's
it.
taking the mantle? Who is the? So it's Pinchas, right? It's like Pinchas. I'm gonna
No,
take
whoever-
my spear and I'm gonna kill him for talking in shul.
Dude, you are like,
Motherfucker.
Dented.
Sorry.
dude, it's whoever has the balls. Whoever has the balls to do it, because most people don't like confrontation. They're hoping somebody else.
Exactly. You know what
No,
happens?
because they're hoping that somebody else is going to take care of it because they're pussies.
Right. And in the process of being Mr. Balls, you fuck it up for the rest of the shul. And now the whole shul is like, oh my God, this guy doesn't stop shushing.
Again, you're straw manning me.
I
Obviously, that's not what I'm talking
like
about.
the name Mr. Balls. That's all I have to say.
It's for some reason this is a controversial subject.
Did you see the
People
movie?
can't agree whether the shush or the
Alex,
talker.
did
why
you
do
They're
see
you-
the
both
movie?
bad. They're both
Alex,
bad.
Why do you bring out the best in me
Hello.
whenever you come on?
Hello, gentlemen. Did you see the movie Team America?
That's
World
my
Police?
purpose here.
Yeah.
Team America World Police. Did you see that movie?
Sharpen it.
Yes. No. Maybe so. Hello.
We're ignoring you,
Yeah.
Greg.
Thank you. That's good.
Greg, what is your question? Can you
I
please
said,
repeat?
did you see the movie Team America World Police?
Dude, that was one of the funniest movies.
I just want to say that the moment when he's with the Chechens and the guy goes, "I like you. You have balls. I like balls." That's all I want to say.
I don't know.
Very
So,
esoteric.
whatever. It's an interesting conversation about the shushing and the talking. We shouldn't be talking in shul. But you got the guys that make it their personal business to be the police. And you know what? Those are the guys I really want to slap.
Okay, so that's not who we're talking about. Nobody in this conversation was speaking about those guys. We started out talking about people who make a lot of noise. They're rude, they're disrespectful, they don't care that people are davening and that they need to concentrate. So every now and then, those people need to be, you know,
Isn't there a real irony in a shusher? Because in the act of shushing in the act of trying to quiet someone, he's getting loud.
that's ridiculous.
While the talker, he just can't help himself. And that's just like an unconscious thing. But the actual act of shushing is exactly opposite of what he's trying to fix. Don't you see the inherent,
unless
like,
the talker is a child, then they can definitely control themselves. Okay.
no, but most talkers in shul
Dude.
don't want to be that guy, but they can't. They just stay next to their buddy. They do a chitty chat.
Bro, it's
I've
because
done
they
it.
lack fear. They lack fear and respect. If they were to
No,
go,
no,
if that
I don't
same
agree with
talker, trust me, if that same talker was going to go into a Buddhist monastery or into an Islamic mosque, he would keep his mouth shut, okay? Because he out of fear and respect. But because
So,
he's around Jews, he doesn't give a shit.
so some people, someone pointed out to me, and I kind of like, you have like in the FFB world, where someone said, listen, I go to shul. For me, I'm with my friends, I'm hanging out. It's a place where I'm social. It's kind of a natural spot. I mean, you're right. The answer is go outside and talk. Go outside and talk. But it's not done because of disrespect, because of lack of fear. It's just they're not even processing that. It's unconscious most of the time.
Now, that is a very, look, everybody knows.
I'm trying to give Gamas Hafsos. I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt. I just think it's easier to give the benefit of the doubt to the talker than to the shusher. That's all.
No, man, that kind of stuff, like, davening is like a small period of time. You know, it's a half an hour, it's 5 minutes, it's 10 minutes. Just shut the f up during that
Okay, so if
time.
people are talking,
Frank is like the Ricky Gervais of davening. Just shut up and take your award and get off, and thank your God, daven to your God and get off the stage.
Isn't there this concept? Like I heard this whole story. It's like a mushal or a story. Some guy was davening by the kotel, and the beggar came up to him. He's begging him for money, and this guy has the most incredible kavanah in the world.
Yeah.
The most incredible kavanah in the world, and this beggar comes to him, starts distracting, but this guy gets angry. Like, don't you see? I'm like Vegas over here. And you're bothered disrupting me.
Yeah.
And then the next thing that happens, he leaves. The guy gets struck dead, and he's in Shemayim, and the heavenly court says, "Listen, you were in such a high state of davening. We sent you this angel to send you this beggar to bring you to even higher level. You failed."
Yeah.
So one thing we know, you're not going to control the talker. You're not. You can try. There's always that guy that doesn't shut the F up. So this the guy you tell him private, and every once in a while someone chit chat. It just happens. By the end of the day, if you want to be in a shul, there's no talking. You got to go to another shul if the shul and talking in the shul.
Dude,
because that kind of stuff is very hard to control.
Dude, the talking in shul is related to something that me and Greg have been talking about for a long time.
Yeah.
The pussification.
And I agree that talking
Thank
should
you
not
for
be
interrupting
happening
me.
in shul.
Alex, do you see how rude you are?
But I wasn't even finished, and you
No,
interrupted.
there was a pause, a long pause, and then in the middle of my sentence, you began just talking as if I didn't
I'm
start
sorry.
talking.
Let's go.
Again, you bring out the best in me. I appreciate it.
Patience and virtue.
Me and Greg have been talking about this topic. It's called the pussification of the Jewish man.
Yeah.
If you go to any other, you go to a church, you go to a mosque, you go to a Buddhist temple, right? Everybody there will tell you, shut your mouth. This is not a place for conversation, okay? Because they care about their religion and their practice.
The sanctity of the makom.
Yeah, they want to have and they demand respect from everyone. Okay, since Jewish guys don't want to have a confrontation, so this environment occurs. It's everybody said,
it's a passive aggressive environment.
if everybody said, please stop, you're interfering with our davening. This is not a place for conversation. This is a place for contemplation, for meditation, and for conversation with God. Please take it outside. And that it would just disappear overnight.
That's why I really respect the Rav where my parents live, this Chabad Rav. That's what he mamish does that. He'll just go like, it's on Shabbos, so he kind of do this loudspeaker voice. He'll just be like, everyone, if you want to talk during, Shmona Esrei repetition, go outside. Like he says that. He's like, I'm not trying to He's like, I'm not trying to be a dick. He doesn't say that. He's just like, I'm not trying to, he's straight up, there's no doubts. There's no like passive aggressiveness. He's just straight up, and people respect him for that. People really respect him.
Alex, do you remember Rabbi Mansour? We would go in the morning years ago, right? We would go to learn daven, right? And during one of the shiurs, Rabbi Mansour, my phone started ringing, and I thought I had turned it off. I put it on silent, and I couldn't find it. It was ringing, and I was like checking like 50 pockets, and I'm like, I'm really sorry. I saw all these eyes on me, right? They're like, oh, and I felt really bad, and I was like fumbling to quickly turn it off because the people there. Well, first of all, I don't need people to scare me into having respect. But if I was anybody else, if I was a talker, an average talker in shul, I would sense right away that is not acceptable in that environment.
Right. It depends on the show. Like that's the way it is in my show. Like it's not an acceptable thing to talk in that particular show.
Okay, there are you have
the main thing I'm trying to say is that as individuals that are in a shul praying, trying to connect, it's very hard to control our environment, let alone ourselves, right? We're trying to focus, we're trying to meditate, we're trying to connect, we're trying to be present in the moment. And yes, it becomes very annoying when people around you start talking in the sense of distraction. But the challenge, I think, really is not to start controlling the environment, is maybe, let's try to work on strengthening my focus, notwithstanding what's going on around me.
I think it's it's very similar.
I really think that's the avoider. That's the real avoider.
Well,
because the second we start getting distracted about what others are doing, and yes, it is annoying, but it's still something we cannot really control.
With that sentiment, you remind me of the guy who ignored the beggar, because check this out. I'm not telling.
That is the sentiment. That's the lesson from that story.
No, you're the guy who missed the opportunity. Listen to me. Listen to this. Here's what I mean. So the people who are talking in shul, right? Let's say if most Jews weren't scared of confrontation, right? Like you could take the opportunity to go talk, say, sir, can I talk to you for a minute outside? I want to ask you a question.
You completely distract yourself from your prayer.
No, it's not. Well, listen, the guy who's davening had to help the beggar, right? So he had to completely distract himself from his prayer, right? He had to give him tzedakah. This is a form of tzedakah. You're engaging someone who is either unfamiliar with having respect for the shul, so you can talk to him about it, and you can, in a positive way, you can explain what is going on and why he shouldn't speak, and you can create a relationship that way. But if you ignore it and you just let it happen, that's bad. It's an opportunity. I agree with you. You can use it as opportunity to get to know that person and to help them. What do you think?
Most of the time, the opportunity is for oneself to go deeper into oneself.
Yeah, but you didn't.
And it's very easy for people
to
find for the shusher. It's very easy. Here's a target for me to just not be busy with myself at all. Let me just bash this guy because he deserves it, and everyone got my back.
That's totally opposite of what I said.
I'm not saying that's what you said. I'm just saying that there is
the angel.
I hear you. We all agree that we shouldn't be talking in the show.
Yeah.
It's a serious issue. It's an issue. What do you expect from people whose attention span is
Gentlemen, there was a guy in a
high level stimulation.
There was a guy in a shul that I was in, and a friend of mine came with me, and he was at the shul for the first time, and he noticed that there's one guy who talks all the time. And I know that the guy talks all the time because I've seen him do it many times, and nobody tells him anything. And do you know why they don't? Because the guy gives a lot. He's actually a very nice guy, but he also gives a lot of money to the shul. And so the rabbi doesn't say anything to him, nor his friend, who also gives a lot of money. And I had to explain it to my friend at Kiddush. I was like, dude, he's like, how come nobody told him not to talk? I was like, dude, I opened up a siddur, and I said, you see where it says this siddur is a generous donation by so and so and so? I'm like, dude, every siddur in this building is from that guy. And he's just kind of like, oh. But then he was like, that's still kind of whack. Why doesn't the
But
rabbi?
what's stopping someone from just telling the guy, listen, you're distracting me."
Yeah, exactly. That's the question I had. But on the one hand, that's the question I had. On the other hand, I explained to him why no one does. I'm not saying it's okay, but this is the reason no one does. I don't know if anyone has since then. This was a few years ago, but it's kind of like that mentality as well. You know,
That has a lot to do with the COVID situation with the schmack scenes.
this
That-
happened way before Schmecking.
Because if we had real rabbis who had cojones,
Oh, that's some yeah.
right? None of that wouldn't be tolerated. Like, think about it. Think about the people that we look up to, the Chafetz Chaim, right? Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, Avigdor Miller. You think Avigdor Miller would tolerate a guy like that? Just think about it.
Yeah.
You're gonna take your money and get out of here, right?
Yeah. Or like the Rebbe used to say, "Don't try to bribe me."
Yeah.
He used to just say straight up tell people, you know, don't try to bribe me. Maybe.
Listen, some people, it's like a thing. They can't stop talking. It's a disease. Like, weren't you talking about this last podcast? It's like a thing. Like, they need to like bring attention towards them.
I have guys in my shul who they know themselves, and you know what they do? They go and they do an impromptu kiddush club in the kitchen. And
That's standard in Long Island.
And that's where they talk. They're like, you know what? If you guys want to go talk, let's go have a drink and talk in the kitchen, and we'll talk all we want.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Yeah.
For the guys that need to talk, that don't care to daven, they don't care that they come to shul because they want to see their friends, which is also good. At least they're in shul, right?
Instead of on the streets or whatever.
They're not interested in listening to the Torah reading. They're not there. That's okay.
No, they are. They're just doing in between the Torah reading and when the rabbi's, blabbing for 20 minutes.
In one of the shuls I used to daven in Long Island, the rabbi would come up to talk. Half the shul would go downstairs. It became a thing.
Kind of messed up, actually.
It is messed up, but
Greg, remember Louis C.K. Remember that in the show where he did that scene where the girl who was sitting like at the table, like right near the stage, and she was just like started talking in the middle of a set, and he's like, "Excuse me, like I'm trying to do a set here." She goes, and she just keeps talking, and then he rips her like 7 assholes.
Yeah.
Right. And that's exactly what I would like to see happen to these people.
Oh man.
Remember, he said to her, she said something horrible. He goes, he's like, your mother raped a Chinese hobo or something.
Yeah.
are we talking about the talkers now?
Yes.
And we're gonna spare the shushers. The shushers get a pass.
The loud shushers, the shushers who are louder than the talkers don't get a pass. That's
By definition,
Gentlemen.
If you're in the middle of a situation where talking is disruptive, the shushing is disruptive. There's no way around it.
It could be.
Fact.
It could be.
The effect the shushing has on a third party in the shul
It's
is
like
not
collateral damage
than-
when you're trying to deal
than
with
the
terrorism.
talking. So as
You know what?
yeah, that's a perfect motion.
I agree. Because I'm thinking, if I was in that situation, I'd literally go up to the person and I'd say, I apologize for interrupting your conversation.
So that's how you do it. If you have to do something, that's the only way to do it. If interrupting your own prayer is worth it for you to do that, for whatever reason, that may be a good thing. Great.
Yeah, it's worth it. Because if I can hear the guy to such an extent that I was motivated to go up there, not because I hear someone talking, if it bothers me to the point where I can't hear my own thoughts, which I've been in that situation, I'm going to go up to the guy.
Yeah.
So I'm in the similar thing. I would ask politely. Yeah. I remember once I had a Yom Kippur davening. There was a guy chatting the whole davening behind me.
Gentlemen, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Not maybe. Oh, actually, maybe related to this topic, but not really. I'm trying to figure out if I'm crazy. I mean, I know I'm crazy, but I'm trying to figure out if I'm crazy in a particular situation. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. And again, this is a Farrakhan moment. I'm sorry. I noticed that in the Orthodox Frum Jewish community, businessmen, guys who are engaged in business of any kind, Frum guys, there is this pattern of behavior, like show off, attention-seeking behavior, like big time. Like I saw it more in this community than I saw it with, let's say, secular Jews or even non-Jews. Can you please explain to me where in the hell that comes from?
I would have to disagree with you. That's not my experience, so I can't
Because
agree with you.
that is for sure my experience. I'm sorry to tell you. I mean, dude, I
would
don't
say-
lie.
I'm not, I have no reason to doubt that you had those kind of experiences, but I just wanted to say that in all of the people that I've ever met who are involved in business,
Okay.
religious Jews, Hasidic Jews are some
Uh-huh.
of the absolute most humblest of all those people. And we're talking about people who are extremely successful. You would
I'm
never-
not necessarily talking about like the the Satmar and stuff. I'm talking about.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about in general. I've never met
I
people
don't know,
that
man.
rich, that humble as I did in
I'm
the
not.
Jewish
I'm not
community.
talking about necessarily the quote unquote really wealthy guys. I mean, some of them are wealthy, or some of them are not. Some of them are just they do well, but they're not like super wealthy. They're okay, but like I don't know. Maybe it's just the people. Maybe it's just the industry that I'm in.
I think I have some answers for
But
you.
at the same time, I see it also in real estate. I see it in, I'm in the wine business, in the food and wine industry. So maybe in the food and wine, there's a lot of marketing going on. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of events. It comes with the territory, really. But
I can give you an answer, but
I see it in the real estate. I see it in the other.
Greg, hold on. I have an idea, but I want Stuyvesant. He said that he has an answer. I'd like to hear what he says.
I was just going to say, listen, I deal with, in my work, constant clientele that are from the firm world. And you have both. You have guys that are kind of pompous, and whether they're Hasidim, Ashkenazim, Sephardim, whatever. And you have guys that are really humble and really.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's all people. I'm just saying
But
there's a prep.
I do understand what you're asking.
Yeah.
And I do understand that there's a certain kind of chip on the shoulder mentality.
Yeah.
And I see that across the board. And I think I think that stems from something that I've been talking to some friends about over the past few years, is how I have perceived being in the film world the past 15 years. One of the aspects that could really use some refinement is this whole concept of elitism, how we're taught in the yeshivas that we are greater than, like, the way we even identify goyim and the way we relate to the word goyim, and just as a concept, just, oh, don't be a goy, you're acting goyish, just as an example.
That wasn't what I was referring to.
There's a certain elitism, but what I'm saying, there's an ingrained elitism. And now the problem.
Hello?
Yo, I'm still here. Stuyvesant got knocked off by the elite.
Now you're having that being about Jew. I'm to the territory because in a way, the Jews. So the flip side of that is Gaiva. That's kind of the same feature.
You're going to have to repeat some of that.
Can you repeat some of what you said? Because you cut out when you started saying about
5 seconds.
What is the No, what I'm saying is this whole idea that there's a certain elitism in the frum world, like just the way the Jews carry themselves, the way some of the, in the different communities, the way they relate to non-Jews. There's a certain elitism. And what I was saying is that elitism makes sense because that elitism manifests in a kind of destructive Hillel Hashem kind of way, comes with the territory, because the Jewish people do have a higher responsibility. They do have greater so-and-so powers to affect the world, Torah, mitzvahs, etc. So the flip side of that is Gaiva. You know what I mean? Better than thou.
I answered
that superficially.
I mean,
Alex, I believe I answered that question as to why that is the case in an earlier episode where I brought up this metaphor from this. I was using this movie called The City of Embers as a metaphor for why the Jewish people have that, the religious Jewish people have that characteristic, even though it's not ideal and it's not supported by Torah. It has to do with survival mode. 2,000 years of survival mode created certain barriers, okay? And in the world of persecution, right, the only way to get out of the persecuted mindset is to become the dominant one, right? It's basically in this world, it's either I look at you like you're a piece of shit, or you look at me like I'm a piece of shit. There's no like in between mode. There's no like neutral. Okay, that's just how it's been, and obviously it's a simple.
I mean, I don't experience the universe like that at all.
You don't experience the
I
what?
can look at you as a piece of shit and a good guy at the same time. But those piece of shit things.
I'm just explaining to you. I'm trying to explain to you a phenomenon that occurs, here and there that we've all seen. It's not a good thing. It's not supported by Torah. Okay, but why is it there? I believe it's because of Gullus, because of 2,000 years of Gullus.
Yeah, but it's also taught. Right now it's taught in the system.
No, that's what I'm
I
talking
find
about.
myself communicating with my kids. My sons are in yeshiva,
Yeah.
and I love the yeshiva they go to, and I love the school they're in, but I have to kind of correct them in the way they talk about non-Jews and the way they talk about other people that are not religious, let's say. You know what I mean?
So what I'm
And I happen to be in a world where, my immediate family is non-Jews and non-religious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my kids are around that. So for them, it's been a very important critical lesson to understand that we live in a world and everyone is God's creatures. And I'm going back to what you were saying in a prior episode, that whole sod that you read, how I'm not going to start getting into nuances, but where the point being, like, everyone is holy, everyone is created by God.
Yeah.
We just have more responsibility.
For sure.
That's not true, but not everybody is holy. You can make yourself holy, but
Everyone has the capacity to choose.
everybody can become holy if they choose to.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's true. Now, hold on a second. What I said before about this phenomenon being an artifact of Gullus, I was talking about the institutions themselves as well. Everything suffered. Everything was suffered. Okay. In ancient Israel, we had an institution that was built, that was right there in the Torah. It's called Ger Toshav.
Ger Toshav,
Okay? Where a non-Jewish person would come to Israel because they want to learn about the God of the universe, the creator, and they want to learn Torah and they want to get closer. So, but they don't want to become Jewish, which is fine. So we have obligations to those people. We have to take care of them financially, help them with a place to live, help them get food, and teach them and support them. And the Torah uses language like that person is your brother, right? So and they're not Jews. Okay, but you don't have to be supportive to somebody who goes against everything that you believe and wants to knock down your.
Well, of course, that's basic self-defense.
Okay, so most of the time, so even in our messed up Gullus, Jewish institutions, most of the time, when the rabbis would say, don't act like a goy, they're talking about the Nachri, they're talking about the Akam, the guy, the idol worshiper, the guy who is like a drunk, the guy who is, who robs, steals, and kills, and punches old ladies. That's essentially what they're talking about.
Gentlemen, can I tell you why I asked this question? Because for the past few years, I feel like I've been sold a bill of goods and taken for a loop as a Baal Tshuva. Because we were taught about midot, we were taught about business ethics. Not that I needed to go to yeshiva to learn about business ethics or anything like that, or even maybe midot, but that's what I was taught to strive to and aspire to. And then I got into the business that I work in now, and particularly it's in New York. And I just see people who otherwise, when they're not doing business, are, again, they learn way more than me, they daven way more than me, everything they do is way more than me. But the way I see how they do business, not all of them, some of them, is just appalling. And if
with problems.
Listen, and if you confront some of these people face to face about it, they have all kinds of rationalizations and acrobatics, and even halachic acrobatics, and even kind of like hashkafic, philosophical acrobatics, and just downright justifications of, if you had 12 kids, you would fill in the blank of that shady thing that somebody did. So
Greg, if you're talking about people, hold on. I wanted to answer your
I've
question.
been very crestfallen.
Greg, I wanted to answer your question originally. So the people that you're talking about are people with problems. So here's essentially what the situation is.
There's a boatload of people with problems, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you think we're in Gulf?
Ain't a couple of guys. It could be an entire industry.
Greg.
How's that?
Okay. Would you like? Wait.
I'm
Are you
listening.
done? Okay.
I'm listening.
So gullus is gullus.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
Yeah.
Okay. We're barely surviving anyway. Okay. And if you see people doing messed up stuff, it's not a surprise because of where we are in history.
I'm going to ask you a follow-up question.
Hang on. But here's what I wanted to say originally. Rabbi Kessin, he teaches pretty often that, like, not just him, but how come somebody becomes rich? Why does God make some people rich and some people not? So usually becoming rich is not a reward for anything. Okay? It is a test. It is an opportunity to do a rectification. Because at some point in a past life, you were rich and you screwed up. And the only way to do a rectification is to be put in the same situation again and not screw up this time. So what you're seeing here is scenarios created for people to do tikkunim, rectifications. And you see a lot of people are screwing up. Okay, so when you're talking about business, obviously business, greed, corruption, that kind of stuff, that was a major problem for the human being in general.
Yeah.
And obviously that's going to be a huge part of the general rectification of the whole nation. So if you're going to see a bunch of people involved in business who aren't doing the right thing, just understand what you're looking at. This is like rehab.
I totally get that. So now here's my question. What makes me different? Am I as we say in Russian, a loch? Am I a friar? Am I like the one honest businessman?
No, you have different rectifications to do. That wasn't one of your things.
So why do if I have different rectifications, why do I have to be near these guys and watch them do their rectifications? And their rectifications are hurting my livelihood. It's literally there are so many times where their rectifications have literally gotten in the way of my parnasa. Their behavior.
That is your rectification.
What to deal with their BS?
There are so many times where their
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Greg, what if your rectification is like in a previous life? This is just hypothetical.
Okay.
In a previous life, you're very holy. You were Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and you went out of the cave and you just started burning everything.
That's probably I for sure that's probably I have a spark of that. I know that for a fact. Because if you only saw me when I left,
that's clear to anybody who listens to you for a little while. Okay?
Yes.
So basically, perhaps your rectification is to be around people messing up and not being a judgy asshole about it.
That's true. No, but listen, I'm totally fine with that because this is something actually I've been working on for lately. I mean, the past couple of years, 3 years, to realize that. However, again, it's one of those things when it personally affects my livelihood. It's not that I'm not trying to be a judgy whatever about it. I'm just trying to say, like, listen, guys, like, I want to do business the right way. I understand that there's gray areas. You can't always be a goody. You can't. Even I can't, right? I get it. We're all adults here. Fine. We're all men. Whatever. We're all, not swindly. We're all kind of like very smart Jews, and we figure out ways to go between the cracks. I even do that fine. But like, come on, guys. Like, let's just at least not like step each other's. We're all kind of on the same, so to speak, team here. Especially in the industry that I work in. Like, why are we? Like, let's stop screwing each other over. Like, what is this, man?
Yeah, but
that's just my basic.
That's the regular thing. Whenever it comes down to the details, that's not a from Jewish thing.
That's a human nature thing.
I know, but it seems to be very
I'm interested.
on display.
What do you mean?
put it
What do you
that
mean
way.
by crestfallen?
Dude, I was like naive,
kinda-
stupid guy.
I'm digging that term. I've never really heard it.
What am I? Crestfallen is when you're like on this, kind of some level. Sad. It just means sad and it just means sad and disappointed. But it's like
Gentlemen, talk amongst yourselves for a moment. I have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
attend to something.
okay. I heard like a meowing noise.
I gotta pee.
Yeah, it's. I had a like when you're kind of on this when you have a perception of something or someone, and there's like this reality check, I guess.
Right, but that's just people. That's not the
That is people.
orthodox.
That is people. But listen, I'll tell you something, man. The Kiruv world, they are very good at what they do in the sense of they're very, very good at selling you an idyllic image of what's possible from, people who are from families, from people who are doing business, from just anybody. They're very good at showing you examples of people who are doing it, let's say, the right way, right?
Right.
And they show this to you, over and over again, and in very kind of these, isolated kind of cases. And so you get it into your head because, what you see on the flip side is the secular world, right? Which is in fact, people being screwed up people. So then you start to assume, well, oh, wow, the Frumies are, holding by this and holding by that, and they're doing things the right way. So you're like, wow. It's like it's a naivete, it was a very good sales pitch.
It's a question of community. It's a question of community. Yeah, listen, if your business community has these features, is people behaving in suspicious ways and questionable ways.
Yeah.
That's the community. But
Listen, the point is that I got it into my head that people who are connected to Torah have a different consciousness, and I realize that that's not always the case, sadly.
and that's something that I learned very much also being in this world. But then at the end of the day, I'm just working on even more keenly now my own personal relationship with God. And
Yeah, for sure.
the Jewish world offers so many different communities that you can connect yourself to
Yeah.
that do reflect your values and do reflect your
course.
goals and do reflect and maybe this is just a sign to go find a different community.
Yeah, I mean, listen, by me, it's not like I particularly.
But this is a business community. You can't really pick that one.
No, I know. Listen, I know that. It's been a very long journey in the sense of like, especially since I came back to America from Israel. I mean, granted, I live in Israel now, but I'm talking about when I came back the first time after I, was in yeshiva and I lived in Israel for 3 years. I came back to America. I was never around the Frum community in America until the year 2014. And it was a lot of things were shocking to me again, because there's a big difference between American or Anglo Baal Tshuva community in Israel, that little space that I'm a part of, versus what's called 21st century Brooklyn Judaism. It's two different realms completely, and
yeah, but don't forget, there's like how many millions of Jews in Brooklyn?
Yeah,
There's
like
so many pockets of anything you want.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I for sure don't fit into the second one. I tried. I really tried.
I've been exploring a little bit. I've been exploring different communities, and I love the diversity. I love the ability.
I like the diversity, but there's
shul, Syrian shul, Malchuva shul.
Listen, at the end of the day, how should I put this?
A fried out Hasidic song circle.
Listen, man, for me, at the
all
end
beautiful. It's all people, all of the same mission, man. Everyone's trying to do the same thing. They're trying to connect.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is
Blah, blah.
for me, at the end of the day, when I slice it down, a lot of it has to do with, you know, being in the land of Israel and really participating in the, you know, like as a friend of mine likes to call it, pushing Jewish history forward and participating in building something completely new that never existed before, not sustaining something old. You know, for me, it's just not, as we say, Rabbi Gitik says in Russian, это неинтересно, you know? Мне это неинтересно, you know what I mean? It is what it is, you know, what can I say?
But in a way, that's a very unique and cool bubble.
What is?
Going to the West Bank and working with wineries.
It's not just the wineries. I'm talking about just Stam, like being in Israel, and
Right. That's it. You come to America, it's a culture shock.
yeah, it's a huge culture shock, you know.
Greg,
Yes.
all you got to do, like, you know, so what's the answer? The answer is whatever situation you're in,
Uh-huh.
you identify the most serious people. I'm talking about people who take their spirit, you know, their relationship with God seriously, and you attach yourself to them and hold on as tight as possible.
Yeah.
That's the only way to get through it. End of story.
No, that's exactly what I did right before I moved back to Israel, and it was January 2020. That's exactly what I was doing for a few years. I mean, I was living in Crown Heights, but I was also latching on to people that I would meet, just different communities who were on the same kind of wavelength in terms of, actually, a lot of people were also kind of like Aliyah bound, you know, or Israel bound or whatever. And I latched on to this kind of community that's here. I mean, it exists also in Florida as well, I think, but in New York for sure. And that's how I, you know, stopped from going completely insane, for lack of any other reason.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, but listen, at some point, you know, again, this is for me. I have to build a life, and the life that I see myself building is in Israel. You know, literally, my friend who lives there now, who moved back there, he grew up in Israel. He texted me. He literally texted me a couple of days ago that he met a guy who's like my friend now lives in Judea. He lives in the hills of like Judea in Gush Etzion with his new wife, Baruch Hashem. And he told me that he met this guy who's like 55 years old or 59 years old, who's like, you know, he moved from America years ago, like 20 years ago, 25 years ago. He has vineyards, you know, he does tours for people, you know, who come from Putzlaritz. You know, he's building the land. He got married, you know, years ago, whatever. He has a few kids. And my friend goes to me, dude, he's like, I met this guy. He's like your spirit. This guy's like your spirit animal. He's like, I feel you guys are like literally, like actually, you might even be brothers, actually like genetically brothers. I don't have a brother, not that I know of. He's like, this guy is like, he's like, this guy's like you in 20 years, man. I'm like, halavai, you know? And then I saw a picture of this guy, and I'm just like thinking to myself, obviously, you know, we can only live our own lives. You know, we can't copy other people's lives, but we can do is we can, I guess, take people as like, you know, role models, examples, whatever you want to call it, people we can learn from. And I realized, you know, how should I put this? Why am all these years, I really have been kind of a little bit lying to myself, actually not a little bit, a lot, and telling myself, yeah, I could stay in America and I could do this and I could do that. I should do this, I should do that, you know, family, this, da, da, da. And then when I slice it down really, really to the MS of what I really see for myself, and that's being in the land of Israel and building something from scratch and literally formulating a family like yesh me'ayin, you know, like a tzimtzum. If a person could do a tzimtzum, that's what I see myself doing.
So,
you know,
if you could literally right now experience the feeling of being that guy, right? Or not being that guy, being yourself
in a similar, yeah. I mean, listen,
in a situation that's suited for you, like
yeah,
being 50, having the family, having the vineyard.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I've had
preparing to travel to Yerushalayim for the festival.
Yes. Listen, man. I mean, I don't know. What did you say, dogs? What did you say, dog?
Give some carbonas.
Oh, carbonas. I don't know about carbonas. I mean, those guys.
Can we experience right now, like as if Mashiach is here? Can we just have that emotional experience?
Frank, what do you? That's a question for Frank. What do you think?
A thought exercise. Like, how would that feel? Like, can we just feel that?
So basically, you're asking what would it be like if Mashiach came?
I'm saying a little bit more. I'm saying, can we try to experience it right now? Just imagine it, like feel it.
Alex, Alex,
Gary?
this happened to me. This
Lot
happened
is
to me
not a
once.
lot.
What?
Just as a meditation, as an exercise.
To pretend, like try to pretend like.
Alex, I did this once. There was like this guy. Oh, well, I went with you to that elevation. You were there.
Yeah.
We did this. What did you think? What did you think of it, by the way?
That was cool. I liked it a lot.
Where did you manage to? I mean, I managed to actually go to a place, like, you know, in that meditation. Like
I don't necessarily remember where I went in that specific meditation. I just remember having a very positive, interesting, unique Jewish experience, and it was kind of opening. That was in hindsight a beginning of a journey for me.
Oh, okay.
Exploring Judaism a little bit differently.
Gotcha.
So that's what I'm saying. You could experience, and this is a concept, like Dr. Joe Dispenza, I don't know if you heard of him, talks about this a lot. From a scientific standpoint, you can emotionally, in your mind, experience an event that you want to happen in the future. Like for you, for example, you could imagine yourself being in your vineyard with your kids, with your wife, you know, in a certain strong space, and you can experience that right now. So what that actually does, it triggers kind of subconscious, conscious mechanism. Now that it increases your chances of moving towards those goals.
Yeah, it's called manifestation. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So can we just do a mini Mashiach manifestation?
I mean, it depends what you.
It's for some reason it's challenging to even suggest that.
Okay, so it depends what you mean. It depends what you think about.
Depends what it looks like to you.
Right. So to me, it looks like seeing my loved ones again. Okay, that's the primary thing.
Okay.
All right. So I try to imagine that all the time, and I beg for it, and I expect it.
Yeah.
Because it's real, and I ask for it all the time, and so that's about as close as I can come to trying to experience.
On some level of spirituality and divine oneness that exists right now in front of you. It's present.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Hashem is L'mayla Hazman. He's above time. So that reality, Alpi L'mayla, exists right now.
Yeah, I know, but I don't feel it. And just knowing that it exists doesn't help me.
So what I'm suggesting is, why not allow ourselves to feel it?
I'm not. Look, I don't know how you feel. I'm just saying.
Can you pause? Can we feel it?
So if you ask me, all I can say is I haven't been able to feel it. I don't know if it's not possible, but I certainly haven't felt it. I know it's there. And
you feel like you could do it if you chose to do it?
I don't want to do that. You know why?
So that's my question.
I'm going to explain to you.
Fear?
Dude, are you making statements or you really want to hear an answer?
I'm asking questions.
Oh, I'm saying you're asking questions, but do you want to hear answers?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I feel that people who do that, not always, but a lot of times, they take that, the pretend time or that, that connection that they think they make, and that becomes a replacement for the real thing. Like they're not actually fighting for the real thing anymore. They don't even really believe the real thing is going to happen. They start to believe that connection in their mind, that's the real thing. And I think that's a big problem.
I hate to say this, that sounds like that. Sounds like fun. Sorry.
I can't hear what you're
My
saying.
opinion. I said it sounds like
fun. FUD? Oh, FUD.
fun. Because what's wrong? I mean, people are struggling all the time with all kinds of things, which are usually caused by the mind. So, you know what? Let me take 5 minutes and let me put myself into that experience.
We got to be specific here, dude. What are you talking about? What?
I asked you. You said your experience of meditating that Mashiach is present would be an interaction with your loved ones. So, my question is, why can't you just close your eyes and do that?
Because I don't know whether or not that's actually me just making up like things in my mind, or I'm actually interacting with my loved ones. I want reality.
So,
I just think he wants the physicality aspect of that.
Not just whatever you want to call it, but
Yeah.
all I'm saying is there is an experience of the messianic revelation, whatever that is. Whatever, and there is some aspect of that we can maybe conceptualize. Oh, it would feel like this or like that. Or, I mean, it's an interesting question. How would I feel?
so I do that all the time naturally. Like I'm always
I
daydreaming
see so
about
much
it.
Taurus. There's so much Taurus in the world. So maybe a conception of Mashiach is it's like humanity shifts in the way it experiences reality. It's like, whoa, like they just
Alex,
dropped
it sounds like you're talking about daydreaming, and I do it all the time.
I think it's deeper than daydreaming. I think it's something.
I know my daydreaming is really deep.
I think what Alex is talking about is something that people like, we always hear the stories of Baal Shem Tov or Levi Yitzhak Berdichev when they literally went up. I mean, our version, we can't do what they did, or maybe, who knows, maybe we can, but not that I know of. But
You're talking about doing an ascent, Alex?
it's not. It's
No.
our own version. It's our own version of it. Let's say.
That's just the way Greg is. He's just associating it with that.
Yeah, I'm just associating. I'm not saying.
At basic. You lay down on your couch. You sit down in a chair. You go on the beach, whatever, and you close your eyes and you experience and think about what that would experience would feel like, and try to feel it.
Okay, just 1 second, Greg.
Why not?
Greg, what you just said.
Yeah.
You were talking about something that the Baal Shem Tov, that was an objective reality. That wasn't a subjective
I know.
experience that he was experiencing.
I know.
Bison's talking about something subjective.
I understand what you're saying. What I'm trying to say is that even I'm trying to open the can of worms that Alex kind of open it further. Rav Kook used to talk about that the closer we get to Mashiach, that even simple, very, very simple Jews, not what I call non-tzaddikim, will have the ability to have a sliver or some level of their own version of nevuah, of prophecy. And it's a learned skill. And it's a skill, part of it comes from doing his bodadut, personal prayer. The other part is other techniques, skills, whatever you want to call it, meditations. And every Jew, right before Mashiach, closer we get to Mashiach, will have the ability, the capability to get to that place, to bring himself to that place if he wants to. So, yeah, man, it's entirely possible to, at the very least, maybe attempt to bring yourself to a place to you're not trying to obviously, you're not going to physically get, or maybe you will, God willing, Mashiach should come, physically see your loved ones again. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to bring yourself to that place in some future moment, so to speak. Again, it's like a nevuah within yourself. You're basically manifesting a nevuah inside of yourself. It's deeper than just closing your eyes on the beach and just whoop-de-doo, like we said, what's it called, daydreaming. It's an actual.
I think we're getting all our terms messed up. I need to explain what I mean by daydreaming.
I know, I get it. I'm just saying.
I'm actually not sure that
Okay.
we may be talking past each other.
Okay.
So basically, Rabbi Bar Tzadok, he teaches this. Okay, so there are techniques that are used. There are mantras that are used. Okay, there are concepts which are focused on, and you say them, and then your mind begins to flow. Okay, and it's very similar to daydreaming. See, daydreaming is not a simple thing to be scoffed at. Okay, it is a tool that can be a catalyst for a real liftoff to an objective experience. It can be. Okay, so but there could even be some overlap between those two states of mind, and it's very unclear what is the exact dividing line between the two states of mind, between flowing imagination, and then when it finally joins with objective reality. Because the malachim, the angels, and the spiritual beings, they attach to the daydreaming part of it, and then they take over at some point.
Right. Havaya hu Elokim.
That's one of the meditations.
No, but that's not what I was referring to. But it's all one. There's no dividing line. It's all one.
No. There is a dividing line. Because Havaya uses Elokim, right? Elokim and Havaya are two separate powers of God. Okay, and they're in a lot of ways polar opposites. You have the Koach HaGavul, right, which is the power of limitation. Okay, which in some ways, as Hasidus teaches and Kabbalah teaches, is even stronger than Havaya. Because if you think about it like this, you have an infinite ocean of light. Just, I'm using metaphors here, right? And that would be the Or Ein Sof. And you have this infinite ocean. And think about the power that it would take to push that infinite, to create a tzimtzum in that infinite ocean of possibility of the Or Ein Sof, and to contain it and to control it. That power would have to be stronger than the Or Ein Sof. And that's the Shem Elokim. So these are separate powers that God uses. So even though on the deepest level of reality, Ein Od Milvado, right? We're all one, that's true, but we don't experience that. We can't experience that. Not yet. At some point in the future, we're going to be absorbed within Atzmos and somehow still retain our own sense of self.
The way I've kind of stumbled onto this concept, I don't know if it sounds familiar, like experiential Judaism, almost like there is this understanding that our spirit comes from the Shem Havaya and our guf comes from the Shem Elokim, and how they are constantly in a state of interaction in this world through us, within us. And I've almost come to an experience where, just in what we were talking about the other day, the levushim, the machshava dibur ma'aser, right? That is the space where the Havaya and the Elokim interact. In actuality, that's how that interaction happens. So within our Malchus, right? Our Malchus, the way we express ourselves to the world, the machshava dibur ma'aser is the interaction of the Havaya and the Elokim. It's happening in real time within us. We are the integrators. We are the one who are making that deal. And what makes it so challenging is that the power of Havaya is so intense. It's this constant flow, and the Elokim is just keep. I mean, I think I'm kind of rambling at this point, but do you guys hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yes to both.
Yes.
So basically, I just want to go back to your point, Alex, for a moment. There is a possibility, and this is Greg. You also were mentioning this about what Rav Kook said, which is true, that there is a possibility for people to make the ascents, the real ascents, not imaginary ones, not subjective ones. Okay, there is a real world called Yetzirah. It is a real place with real laws of physics of its own. Okay, it's connected to our world, and we get there through our consciousness. Okay, the pathway to get there is one of consciousness. Physicists have been speaking about consciousness as the primary power even in the physical universe. Okay, so that shouldn't be like, scoffed at. So basically, using your imagination as a springboard to connect with a reality, that is something that has been part of the prophetic tradition since the beginning. But we have to make sure there's a way to learn when you are in your own imagination and when you have actually entered into the objective world of the higher realms. And and most people don't know, most people are not qualified to recognize that, which is a problem. So if you want to learn exactly,
You're saying that's like a science, there's like a rules
Yes.
to that, not
Yes.
it's completely subjective.
no,
Each person has their own terms.
it's objective entirely. There's rules to it. There's details. There are teachings that nobody teaches.
I don't know about this. So,
They first of all, like Bart Sadok, he's probably the only one that publishes this material in English.
Yeah.
He translates the Kavanot.
Yeah, there are very obscure books that never made it to.
They're not that obscure. They're just not translated.
What I mean by obscure, yeah, they're in terms of like they're not like they haven't been popularized.
You know?
in-
Yeah,
Yeshivot.
he translates stuff that Rav Chaim Vital taught, Yerizal taught, Abu
Yeah.
Afia. It's in the Kabbalistic.
What I'm saying is that all those guys taught it, but Aisha Torah is not teaching it. That's the problem. Big problem.
they're teaching it in congregation Arizal. That's for sure.
Listen.
Yeah, I mean, Rabbi Milstein is probably the one to talk to if you have access to
Yeah.
a person like that. You know, Talk to
He
him
gives
about
Shurim, he gives Shurim straight out of Svarim from Rabbi Chaim Vital.
Gentlemen, can I just mention based on what we're talking about, something that came out in the news literally 2 days ago, and I sent this to Frank. Headline. This is Daily Mail. I mean, it was in different publications. Something weird is going on with our universe. Hubble detects changes in the rate of expansion that cannot be explained by current physics. Data from the Hubble Space Telescope has shown that there is a huge discrepancy between the universe's current rate of expansion compared to the rate right after, I'll call it the Tzimtzum, the Big Bang. Speaking of Tzimtzum. It says the observatory has just completed a 30-year marathon of data collection. Basically, what they were saying is that they have to like completely change the way they calculate or rethink the way that they calculate physics. This is insane.
what are they saying? The expansion is moving faster than
Like it's doing something weird that they can't explain with the parameters of physics
What?
that they have
Okay, so there's three possibilities.
formulated.
There's three possibilities of
Uh-huh.
weirdness. Either its rate of acceleration is constant. Well, you can't say it. It's
Well, here's what is it. Can I read this real quick based on what here it says? Hubble's measurement suggests the rate is roughly 45 miles per megaparsec, but when taking into account observations of the deep universe, this slows down to about 42 miles per megaparsec. A megaparsec is a measurement of distance equal to 1 million parsecs or 3.26 million light years. This suggests that the universe evolution and expansion is more complicated than we had realized, and that there's more to learn about. Okay, that's what I'm saying, how the universe is changing. NASA said astronomers are at a loss to figure out why there are two different values, but suggested we may have to rethink basic physics.
So basically, to boil it down, some parts of the universe are expanding at different rates than other parts of the universe.
Or just the rate that they didn't think that was the rate. It's a different rate.
No, based on what you read,
Yeah.
because normally before, when they looked out at the universe, the blue shift and the red shift, they would see a rate of expansion that was constant all over the universe everywhere they look. If they're seeing two different rates, then that throws a monkey wrench into everything.
Yes, he says, this guy from what is it called? Johns Hopkins. He's like, you're getting the most precise measure of the expansion rate for the universe from the gold standard of telescopes. and cosmic mile markers, said Nobel laureate Adam Rees of the Space Telescope Science Institute at Johns Hopkins. He leads a scientific collaboration investigating the universe's expansion rate called SHOES, which stands for supernova H0 for the equation of state of dark energy. Oh my God. This is what the Hubble Space Telescope was built to do, using the best techniques we know to do it. This is likely Hubble's magnum opus because it would take another 30 years of Hubble's life to even double this sample size. Rees said it was the best to see the expansion rate, not for its exact value at its time, but its implications. And he says, I don't care what the expansion value is specifically, but I like to use it to learn about the universe. NASA now hopes to gain more clarity about the expansion of the universe with the help of the James Webb Space Telescope. Now, this is like a more powerful. It should allow scientists to see new mileposts that are even farther away and in better resolution. I mean, dude, this is, but they always says we have to rethink physics. We have to rethink physics. Nuts. But
there's a lot of reasons to rethink physics.
Yeah.
Lately.
Is this them discovering that something new is happening now that never happened before?
It's been happening.
Or they just, it was always happening and they just kind of figured it out.
It could be that it was always happening, and now they're actually able to see it, and now it's throwing a kind of a monkey. It's throwing a monkey wrench in their operation in terms of calculations, and it's changing.
Gravity really doesn't work. But literally.
Exactly. Not even that. I mean, if you're talking about again all the revelations that we've seen with our Tic Tac friends, and you're talking about bending gravity and bending physics, you know, every which way like a pretzel, you know, then this could be connected to that.
Here's a science fiction.
Frank, what do you think?
Well, absolutely. Here's a science fiction speculation.
Yep.
There are some, let's call them civilizations, whatever, out there, right? That are like, you know what? I don't want my section of the universe to expand as fast as everybody else's.
Yeah.
I'm happy with the current level.
Let's tweak things a little bit.
Let's tweak things a little bit, and we're going to slow it down.
Let's dial this, let's push this button and crank this dial and turn this dial and go over here. And so.
Or maybe they're going to do that not just in their neck of the woods, but they're going to start doing it everywhere.
Yeah.
And bring everything closer together.
Now we'll understand how was it possible for a sea to split and literally look like it did in the Charlton Heston movie, because it probably did.
That's actually not. I mean, in reality, you know this. That's not really what it looked like.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm like, you know what I mean?
It literally says that it's split into 12 sections. Each tribe has its own split to go through.
Is that a midrash, or that was in the?
It could be a midrash, but I was under the assumption that was meant to be understood literally.
Yeah.
And if you have a problem with that, it's sort of like, well, hold on, you have so one split, you can deal with that, but 12, no, that's where you draw the line.
Yeah. I think the problem is not the split. I think the problem is that people have seen that Charlton Heston movie too many times, and they saw the water going up like that.
It's like, don't tell me 12. I saw that movie.
No, not even the 12. They have trouble even fathoming that kind of thing can happen. Just one of that, whatever that was, because of the way it's depicted, you know?
Yeah, but it does kind of make sense. You bring the wind, and the wind is keeping the water up, right?
I mean, assuming Hashem did that.
If the wind was strong enough and constant, he did it. That's in fact what he did. That's what it's described as.
Yeah. So I don't know, man.
I just wanted to just to touch back on the topic we were speaking earlier. Yeah. You were talking about Nevuah, how even the most simplest person is going to be able to experience Nevuah. And there's this concept that Rabbi Max was talking about, how we all have our pineal gland, and our pineal gland is the part of our mind that experiences spirituality. And the majority of our pineal glands are totally calcified, and I don't know what the statistics are, but I would guess a large majority of our pineal glands are idle. And and our bodies, and as from what I understand, what he was explaining, it's DMT that the DMT particle is what affects the pineal gland, what can decalcify the pineal gland, and our body is completely filled with DMT. And what I understand is with these meditative practices, with these experiences, a person on their own can generate stimulation in the pineal gland, which in a way does become what I believe to be, what seems to be the key to a messianic experience. And what is fascinating is that every single person already presently has within them whatever is needed to step into a consciousness of Mashiach, which is basically a pineal
But they
gland.
always
part of
did.
our body.
They always did.
Our bodies have DMT. It's just there. All it needs is a little bit of like a thing, and everyone can just experience it. Like,
So listen. Rabbi Bax was saying, I'm glad you brought him up. He said this many times, that the pineal gland is the point where the spirit and the body touch. That is the entry point of the soul into the body. That's the window to
Gentlemen, can I play for you the 5-minute clip which I found on YouTube from Rabbi Bax himself, which is entitled "My Understanding of the Role of DMT is Messianic." Can I play that?
Please do.
just before you say it, just right before I just want to say, Frank, you said that's the point. So the pineal gland is the Hu in Chavaya Hu Elokim. Could that be it?
The pineal gland. Well, I mean,
The Hu?
I can't say that
I'm
authoritatively.
postulating, but let's hear what Rabbi Bax says.
Okay.
Okay.
Full understanding of the
You could
role
hear
of
it, right?
DMT. And I do believe
Start it over, please.
this whole approach, my whole understanding of the role of DMT, and I do believe that this research is nothing less than messianic. It is part of a ancient prophecy. Let me read to you the prophecy. This is coming from the book of the Zohar, which was first revealed in the 13th century. And in one of the sections, it states, in the 6th century, the 6th millennium, that is in the years 5,500 to 5,600 in the Hebrew calendar, which would correspond to the years 1740 to 1840 in the Christian calendar. The gates of wisdom from above and the fountains of wisdom from below will be opened up, and the world will make preparations to enter the 7th millennium, just as one makes preparations on the 6th day of the week when the sun is about to set for the advent of the 7th day, the Shabbat. This passage has been expounded by Kabbalists and Hasidic masters. The wisdom from above is referring to the teachings of the Kabbalah. The fountains of wisdom from below is referring to science and technology. In other words, beginning primarily from the year 1840, which was what? Industrial Revolution. And it's been history since then. We know that science and technology has been accelerating at a pace that virtually nobody can keep up with. And according to traditional Judaism, this is part of the prophetic grand plan for reality. In other words, science and technology from a traditional religious perspective is not an extra. It's certainly not an evil to be tolerated. It's not a luxury. It is part of the process by which humanity is going to evolve into its next stage. And the relationship is this, is that science and technology provides maps, models, and metaphors to understand and perceive the light of the Torah, of the Kabbalah, in ways that we normally would not be able to understand. However, the master mystics and sages throughout the ages, they always understood. But unless one has 10, 20, 30 years of training, that's virtually going to be impossible. So what about the rest of us? Well, the Holy One in his compassion had mercy upon us, as it were, and has bestowed upon us the maps, models, and metaphors of science and technology. Now, I have been utilizing some of these maps and models for decades in my teaching, in particular, for example, something as simple as the Mobius strip, which teaches us a principle of one surface with two sides, which is referring to, is a model to understand God's unity, how there can be nothing here but God, yet there's something else here as well, yet they make up one indivisible unity. Likewise, the concept of higher and lower dimensionality, as epitomized in the classic work called Flatland by Edwin Abbott over 100 years ago. This enables us to understand what the sages always understood, that we are embedded in a parallel reality here, parallel dimension, the fourth direction, the fourth dimension. Fractal geometry, which is just coming of age recently, has been the bedrock of the Jewish mind and the rabbinical understanding. And so I believe that the research revolving around DMT and the pineal gland is another example of a model that's coming forth from the well springs from below, referring to the science and technology, to enable us to understand that which has been hidden away in in Jewish classical literature, waiting for its time to come out. But we would not see it, ironically, without the utilization of these maps and these models. And in particular here, the relationship between the pineal gland and pineal, the face of God, and DMT and MTT is, although
MTT is Metatron.
cannot be taken as, that's not the hardcore evidence that we're basing this upon. But we value, for example, dreams that we have, even though dreams are taking place in a whole other reality. We utilize that information, we attempt to integrate it. And likewise, with the similarities in even the sound of these words, from a Kabbalistic perspective, this is how the divine mind is helping to prepare and seed mankind for the next jump in global evolution.
What do you think? There's more clips of him.
This is a serious plug for ayahuasca, let me tell you.
This is a serious what?
Plug for ayahuasca.
Oh my goodness.
Actually, it's
He has
not.
he has other clips, by
It's
the way.
not a serious plug for ayahuasca. It's a
No.
serious plug for the meditations that he developed to
Yeah.
reach that.
Ah, come on. He said DMT for the pineal
Can I
gland.
play you
One
a-
springs from below.
Can I play you a
Come on.
1.5 minute clip?
The natural DMT. That's
Can I play you a 1.5?
endogenous.
Listen. Can I play you a 1.5 minute clip where he talks about, it's called Sound of DMT and MT, I guess Metatron are similar.
MTT is like Metatron. Yeah.
One of the things we notice about this relationship
Wait, Metatron is
is
Yudkivasti, right?
that
No. Metatron has Yud-K Vav-K written. He
Yeah.
has the name of his master upon him.
Let me.
Metatron traditionally is abbreviated by the Kabbalists as simply as Memtet or Memtet, which in English would be MT or MTT.
Mhm.
And not only do we see a similarity between the sound of DMT and MT or MTT, but there's another amazing phenomenon, and that is that the research has shown that the pineal gland in the embryo does not become manifested until 49 days, exactly 49 days after conception does the rudimentary pineal gland begin to manifest and thus begin its production of DMT. 49 is also a number of value we find in the Buddhist tradition, in their tradition of when a person dies and when that soul begins to look for another body to reincarnate. that we see the number 49 coming up there
I know.
as well. Well, Memtet in Hebrew equals 49. All the letters in Hebrew are alphanumeric, meaning they're both consonants, alphabetical letters, but every Hebrew letter is also a number, a value. And Memtet,
That's it.
one of the
It was
things
just a
we
short
noted,
clip. It was a short clip. He has a few of these clips where he talks about all this stuff. On there's a YouTube channel of DMT, the spirit molecule. You know, they had a
Yeah,
documentary.
I read that book, man. He had a profound impact on the way I relate to Judaism, period, right now. And these ideas I was talking about all came from him. How we really have within ourselves all the raw material necessary for the experience of Mashiach in real time.
It could be.
All it needs is a trigger and an awakening.
It could be. It could be.
It's ready
Yeah, I know.
physically, like it's there. We have it. So
Right.
why not start practicing?
Yeah.
We can.
Start building that muscle.
That's why I'm mad at you, man. That's why I keep yelling at you. Because we started on it. We were on the path,
Who's we?
me and Alex.
Oh, okay. And then
Yeah, we had a chavusim.
ah,
No, but we're working. We're working. It's ongoing.
This is yeah, man. This is about reconciliation here.
It's a culmination.
in the words of Cartman,
A
screw you guys, I'm going home.
culmination, continuation, reconciliation, conciliation.
Amazing.
Mashiach.
I can't say this authoritatively at all. This is worth maybe asking someone, but I think that the concept of mitat overlaps with the concept of zer anpin.
Okay.
Might be something that you want to talk to Rabbi Milstein about if you're interested.
The concept of matat is only something that I've heard from Rabbi Bax. I never heard Rabbi Milstein speak about it. And is that like a guardian angel? Is that like some kind of malach, some kind of angel?
Yeah, he's the primary malach. He's the minister. He is the
Boss
minister.
of bosses?
No.
bodies only.
He is the prince of the presence, meaning like he's the primary angel in charge of all other angels.
Gentlemen, I hate to annoy you, but I found that yet another clip, Rabbi Back,
Please do.
entitled Kabbalistic Understanding and Appreciation of the Pineal Body in DMT.
Please do it.
So
I'm
just
curious if you, just for Frankie's sake, if you find also something if he speaks about ayahuasca. I'm just curious.
I think there is another one that
Oh, dude, these clips come from a movie called
I know DMT
The
Spirit Molecule. Yeah.
And this movie is all about a study that took place in the 90s at Harvard with
Correct.
Dr. Rick Straussman, I think.
He's one of the people that they interview, and these are like the unedited.
Right.
Uh,
He didn't
clips.
participate in the study, but he was very interested in it.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead.
So this is the Kabbalistic Understanding and Appreciation of Pineal Body.
Kabbalistic understanding, appreciation of the pineal body in DMT is based upon the principle of Adam Elyon, supernal man. We're made in the image of a higher dimensional reality. We are male and female because the divine has masculine and feminine elements to it. All reality, the Kabbalah teaches, is polarized. Everything comes in polarity without exception. And everything, therefore, is feminine energy and masculine energy. When we pray to God, the divine, we, all men, are essentially feminine, whereas then the creator is the masculine polarity. The purpose of prayer is actually simply to generate this polarity through stimulation by expressing our needs and actualizing in our mind and our heart. We are creating a force of stimulation, which in the Kabbalah is called the Mayim Nukbin.
By the way, I found there's the next clip I'm going to play is literally called "When People Are Taking DMT or Ayahuasca or something." But I
Are
can
they
play-
going to the city of Luz?
Yeah, that's what he's talking. If you want me to play that, I can play that.
Yes, play it all.
Fine, fine,
Let the people know.
fine.
There's a very important question, and that is when people are taking DMT or ayahuasca, are they entering the city of Luz? I believe they are. However,
Mhm.
it is being done unconsciously because unless there is a map and a clear methodology, then one will just have a variety of different experiences. I believe that all these various experiences that have been reported from NDEs, near-death experiences, with the now very famous depictions of a tunnel of light, experiences of alien abductions, alien encounters, sexual ecstasy. I believe all of these experiences, in fact, are fractals of the light of Luz. They are fractured fractions, very, very, very minute relative to, let's say, what Jacob experienced. But if we understand the concept of fractal geometry, no matter how small it is, it contains everything that is in the larger picture. And thus, that validates profoundly all these various experiences. Yet at the same time, I believe we have a responsibility to map out clearly where it is that we are going, how to take advantage of it, how to accelerate the process. This once again is a verse in Isaiah, Be'ita achishena, I, the divine, will accelerate it in its time. And I believe that the knowledge, speculation about the pineal body and DMT is in fact the hand of God that is interacting with our natural evolution to stimulate and accelerate the process of redemption of individual and of collective global enlightenment. Be'ita achishena, Isaiah says, in its time, I will accelerate it, I will hasten it. That appears to be a contradiction, but the sages explain it's as if you have you're going from point A to point B. You have to go through hundreds and hundreds of various processes, and you can't skip a single one. But what if we were to draw this line on a piece of cloth, and now we're going to take it and squeeze it together? You're still going to go through every single process, but the distance between each process is going to be highly accelerated. I believe that the research involving DMT is revelatory, although it appears to be a discovery from below. I believe that this is part of the prophetic process. This was in effect prophesized. This had to happen, along with all the other maps and models, metaphors that are spewing forth from science and technology. There's the usage of the thing itself. Okay, there is the computer and our usage of it and how that's affecting us. But it's also the metaphors and the maps that we get from computers that allow us what? To understand how our own internal brain process works. Likewise, yes, there's the experiences from DMT and ayahuasca, and they have their function. But if we'll also look at what it enables us to see in the divine process, once again, as above, so below, as below, so above. We have a pineal gland. If we release DMT, then we have to ask the great rhetorical cosmic question. What does it mean when the Godhead releases DMT? What is the pineal body in the Godhead? And the Kabbalah is revealing to us that the pineal body is actually the very edge of the higher dimension that is penetrating into our lower dimension, and it is located precisely in the middle of the brain, and its appearance, although as small as just the tip of one's small pinky, one's nail, that form that it has is the lowest part of the higher dimension, which is a parallel dimension to our three-dimensional reality. It is right there in the middle of our brain. What we are looking for out there is really in here. It is the doorway. It is the gate. Jacob called the place where he had the visionary dream. He called it Sha'ar HaShamayim, the gate of heaven, the gate to heaven. That is the divine pineal body, which is literally the gateway. This is the tunnel that I believe is being experienced in near-death experiences. But since the individuals don't have a map of it, they don't know where they are and what they are, they can only describe it in terms that they are familiar with. This light at the end of the tunnel appears to be none other than the light emanating from the interdimensional city of Luz. Luz is a state of consciousness. Luz is a language. When one is in the city of Luz, Luz was also known as Kushta, had another name called Kushta, which means in Aramaic truth. When one was in the city of Luz, one could never lie. One could only speak truth because it was pure consciousness. It was pure truth. Your ego cannot go with you into the city of Luz. When one enters the city of the Luz through the proper stimulation of the pineal gland, one's ego self is automatically left outside. As the sages tell us, one never dies in the city of Luz. It's eternal. It's non-linear time. It's non-linear space. If one wants to die, one must go outside of the city of Luz. When we're outside, we're always falling out of the city of Luz. We're all trying to get to the city of Luz. That is every man's dream. That is our Shangri-La that we are all in search of, a state of true spirituality, of true consciousness, of absolute truth and eternity. This is the mystery of the city of Luz. This is the pineal gland. This is Pineal, the face of God.
Interesting.
Okay, one more, okay? There's
Which one?
There's one that says, I'm developing a method in order to stimulate. It's in the same playlist, if that's what you
One
want.
second. Yes, I'm developing a method in order to stimulate the pineal body.
Yeah, this is his main point.
Gentlemen, I just want to say.
He's also referred people to Jewish ayahuasca groups around New York City.
I just want to say that this is not exactly your TorahAnytime.com thing. And I mean that.
But he's a legit guy, man.
I know.
We have
Well,
his forum. We learn his books, man.
He was a legit. He was. He passed away, right? Last year.
I mean, he is a legit guy. I love his shalom.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for the correction.
Yeah.
But no, I've seen his forum. I mean, not that I'm an authority, but I'm around a lot of these types of Torah, and he covers the Vilna Gaon, the Lashon, the Balatanya from or the Rashash, from all sources of Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Very, very comprehensive, intimidating stuff.
Alex, it feels weird to me when you say Balatanya. I feel like you should say the Alter Rebbe. I don't know. Whatever, that's my opinion.
Alter Rebbe. I think that's your issue, not mine.
All right, I'm gonna play this clip, and you guys can figure out internally what.
Definitely your issue, but anyway. No.
Yeah, because I'm bringing it up.
And still developing a methodology in order to stimulate the pineal body, which is the center of the nexus between the spiritual and the physical. It's this location that the sages also refer to as the Even Shtiyah, the foundation stone. And this is where the temple in Jerusalem is what it's based upon. This is the Holy of the Holy. And I've developed and composed meditation for entering the city of Luz. Luz, once again, being the rabbinic Kabbalistic biblical term to refer to what in our physical bodies is the pineal gland. And the meditation is can be used as a visual imagery. It can be used to prepare oneself for this process. It can be recited at any time. And it is this. I am now preparing myself to be a purified vessel for the endless undulating light of the Ein Sof in the mystery of your straight expanding light and your curved contracting light. For you have made me in all things in your image of male and female within male and male within female. You, the unknowable Ein Sof, the root of all existence. You reveal yourself through your sacred formula name of Yud-He, Vav-He, YHVH, the name of God, that has never not been iterating into itself in order to multiply onto itself for the sheer delight of being itself. Ein Od, there is no other. There is no otherness other than the never not undulating mystery of your Sha'ashua, your divine delight. Our Creator, the light of the Ein Sof, may it be your highest will and your greatest desire that you now grant me permission to enter into the hidden vortex that leads to your city of Luz. May all the stimulation that I now generate as I follow the eternal path of Jacob our father on his journey from the city of Beersheba to the city of Luz, the temple of God, may it be offered to you as mitigated gevurot, the sweet pungent aroma of my nukbin, the lower female waters, a negative current and polarity to arouse your Or HaGanuz, the hidden light, to be released and to radiate down upon me and upon all of your creation. May the Metatronic DMT in my pineal organ, containing the living Ruach spirit of Metatron that I release as I now enter your sacred city of light, the gate to your higher dimensional heavens, flow down as sweet rarefied oil to anoint me and all humanity. May I merit to arouse the sacred pineal organ, your Peniel, the face of God, of the resurrecting body of Adam. From my own physical body to that of Adam Harishon, the first man, and to Adam Kadmon, archetypal man, to hasten the redemption and completion of your world. When I was 49 days old in the womb, your Metatronic spirit in the mystery of Memtet, equaling 49, entered me through my pineal body. And when I sleep and when I will die, you exit me through my Peniel, face of God. For I am fractally formed in your image, the image of God. And as the verse in the book of Job states, from my flesh, I will behold God. May Metatron, Prince of Peniel, the face of God, the sacred nervous system of the holy body of light of the Ein Sof, be my mentor and mediator, my instructor and my guide. I humbly call upon the Prince of the Presence to appear outside the walls of Luz to show me, in the secret of the mouth and the finger, the hidden Luz tree. Reveal to me your tree of life with its foliage tresses camouflaging its hollowed out trunk, concealing the Luz cave that leads into the serpentine tunnel that opens into the eternal city of light. And may I be worthy to receive upon my head the eternal garland of the two-tailed Leviathan and be anointed with the liquid light of your Metatronic DMT. My Lord, the Prince of Luz, may I now be worthy to invert inward my entire external world, outside in, my thoughts, my feelings, my memories, all the sounds, textures, and pulsations. Metatron, Prince of Torah, you whose name, Yud-He Vav-He, is the same as the name of your master, and your master's name is within you. Teach me your secret and show me how to invert the material field of my body You, Metatron, who are El Shaddai, Lord and Master of the sacred Yesod, bless me to turn my flesh and carnality outside in and draw it inward and upward through the staff of my spine, the rod of your truth, and to be laid as an offering at the entrance to your cave, all of it, the good with the bad, the ecstatic with the shameful, the godly with the profane. May the crown of my lower Yesod be drawn from inside, outside in, to return to its original and higher form, the crowning glory of my upper Yesod, my pineal organ. Peniel, the face and presence of my God. I call upon Or Peniel, light of the face of God, to kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. A verse from the Song of Songs. And open for me the gates of righteousness. A verse from the book of Psalms. May all the pleasure and undulating light of the Shashua, the divine delight of the Ein Sof, that now flows through me, be curved back as a sweet savored offering to our Creator, to arouse him to redeem and resurrect his creation, and reunite his straight light with our curved light, his masculine with our feminine, his divinity with our humanity. Amen.
Okay, can I just say one thing really
Yeah.
quick?
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, Metatron is, okay, when Adam and Chava, they had their situation with the tree, okay? They are our collective neshamas, the super soul of man.
Mhm.
And the soul is split up into, as we know, 5 sections. So you have the nefesh, ruach, neshama, and then the chaya and the yechida. So the part of Adam and Chava that participated in the eating of the tree of knowledge are the lower 3 aspects of our consciousness, which is the nefesh, ruach, and neshama. The chaya and the yechida did not participate in this, and they did not descend with us. Those aspects of our consciousness, of our soul, that is the Metatron collective. So Metatron is more than just a single entity. He is us, the higher aspects of our neshamot, which we have to connect to. Okay, we are connecting to our own higher self. That's part of what he was doing.
Mhm.
That was really powerful. I really appreciated that. It's almost like we were asking for a Mashiach meditation. We got it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
What I wonder is how he even came up with that.
Everything that he used,
It's incredible.
everything was absolutely, every concept was well known in the RE. You know, it's all there. It's all there in Otzrot Chaim. It's all there in the Eitz Chaim. Every little last bit of it.
What he really tried to do, I get the sense, is that he really gave a step by step map that if you allow your mind to follow that step, it will actually cause a physical release of DMT. And you can get yourself into a trance. And if you do this enough times and you get practiced enough, then that could in fact create that kind of experience.
And the more you understand each one of those things that he talked about, like the concept itself, the deeper you get into that flow of that prayer that he
I also get the sense from him that he's not against the use of DMT or things like ayahuasca, so long as if you are doing that, you have a plan and a map of how to take advantage of that type of stimulation in your pineal gland.
Okay, perhaps not, but in this video, he's talking about this particular prayer and meditation was developed in order to use.
Oh, that was just prayer, but yeah, from the combination of all the videos we just heard.
Right, but just to reiterate, I just want his primary, this is what he presented. This is what he wanted the world to know, that he developed with a lot of hard work and this prayer and similar meditations for the purpose of stimulating the DMT that is already in your body, naturally, that you were born with.
So could this also be connected to the fact that now we're seeing in the world, and I see this in the Jewish world also, there's a real shift in the way society and medicine is experiencing like psychedelics and those kinds of things. I'm looking to it. I know in the psychology world for more healing stuff, and a lot of research has been done. What he was talking about, Rabbi Bax, was the Rick Sussman
Straussman,
study, right? That's what you were talking about, Frank. Straussman.
that's right. And
Who
you know
did,
what's funny? I
saw that he did significant study on the DMT, and he didn't. It wasn't, and they were doing it in a university setting. And
dude, Rick Straussman.
what's amazing is that
religious.
Rabbi Bax. Huh?
You heard I said Rick Straussman became like religious.
He what?
He became religious. He was a Jewish guy, but he became religious after the study in a kind of a weird way. But because I listened to some of the lectures.
Makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, Alex, I agree. I do think that
Listen,
the psychedelics, the experimentation with it, the experiences people, it's all part of it. Yeah.
it's part of the awakening of what he was referring to as Isaiah's prophecy.
Yeah.
From below.
Right. But as he was talking about,
God is what God is doing. He is expediting the process by making available and accessible these things
right. So now that you heard, now you have something else accessible.
Controlled way. Oh, so I can only imagine someone going into it, like an ayahuasca space or a DMT space, and with that meditation.
But try using it for the reason that he designed it for.
No, this meditation on itself is very powerful. It's amazing. It's amazing.
You got it right. So it's just saying the words is not gonna. You got to really, really think about each one of the things that he's talking about there, and
yeah. But you're stepping into the consciousness of the Megatron, the consciousness of the oneness of creation, where it's a place where pain and pleasure is really the same. It's where Havaya Hu Elokim, where you can actually experience the integration of what is two seemingly opposing forces really are stemming from the same oneness. Right? Does that make sense?
yeah, I don't. From the people that I know who have experienced it, I don't hear a lot of pain. Okay, pain is something. It seems an artifact of
if you think about it,
obfuscation.
the historical tradition that discusses the experience of prophets is their bodies are like, only Moshe Rabbeinu was really able to like kind of stand upright and experience prophecy. Bodies convulsing, if you're experiencing higher state of spirituality, there is by nature physical discomfort, physical pain. No, that kind of is bittul to the experience.
Initially, because basically when the prophet, from what I read, when the prophet would begin engaging with the higher realms, the body would seize, right? So there would be like a kind of like a seizing, and they lose control essentially of their movement. And also the mind as well. Rabbi Kessin was actually explaining the process very, very clearly by the Ramchal, through the Ramchal's explanation. He was saying that the prophet would get into that state of mind, and then obviously using the imagination as a springboard, then the images and the imagery, the language of the imagery is used by the malachim to take over the mind and to essentially show a movie. It's more of like a 3D immersive experience, but the person is not generating it anymore. It's entirely being shown to them. And when the prophet sees this communication, this visual communication, when they are sent back, they recall it with pristine perfection, and the information for what each visual image means was already installed in the image itself, meaning the prophet knows exactly what each symbol means with perfect certainty. There's a lot more to it, but that's the basic description that I recall.
You think it'd be a good idea to add the Mashiach meditation to the podcast, just as a matter of process?
I mean, just
Let's
to
just do a 5-minute Rabbi Bax DMT pineal
You mean like in
gland.
the beginning or now?
probably at the end.
Do that.
It's a commitment.
It's possible.
Because if you're going to go to lose, we're not going to be able to have some of the discussions that we
That's
need to
true.
have.
Like, yeah, we won't be able to talk about Nobody Beats the Wiz and Syrian
And strawberry.
and the Daffy Dan's and strawberry stores.
Alex, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a store called Daffy's. You probably know about that. Your parents certainly went there.
I've been there. I've personally
Yeah.
been to Daffy's.
Same.
True
Yes.
story.
And here's the amazing thing. Daffy's, well, used to be called what I thought was Daffy Dance, because that's how I heard my mom say it and all her friends. But
Yeah.
Daffy Dance.
Daffy Dan's.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
I thought it was dance, but today I learned no, it's Dan's, like DAN apostrophe S.
Yeah.
Daffy Dan was a guy,
Yeah.
and he had a store.
It's pretty
See,
bad.
we wouldn't be able to talk about important things like that if we're in Luz.
I didn't know who Dan is. I didn't even know there was a Dan as part of Daffy.
Yeah. Right?
Wow.
Seriously, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
You
What
know,
about-
in some way, everything is the city. Everything is the city of Luz is behind it all.
Yeah.
It's there. It's present. You just have to allow yourself to go there.
Actually, no, the city of Luz is the place that you go to when you're not in your body. So no, not everything is the city of Luz.
No.
As long as you don't
You
go to
can say it's the
filing.
opposite. But Bab just said opposite. It's inside of your brain. You can do it while in your body.
No, it isn't. It's where you're the pineal gland, right? The pineal body is the tunnel. Actually, in his books, he describes more. You know where the tefillin goes, right? You have the box that goes on the top, on the hairline, right? And then you have the dalit in the back that goes from the back of your neck, right? So from those 2 points form a tunnel. He describes this in his books. Okay, that is the tunnel to the city of Luz. So if you were to go through that tunnel, you would not be in your body.
Yeah.
You mean consciously, but the body would still be in its place. Nothing would move.
Your consciousness would not be
You're
inhabited.
experiencing consciousness, but what's allowing you to experience your consciousness is your brain.
No, it isn't.
It's not your brain.
Consciousness is
It's your
independent.
pineal gland.
The pineal
No, it
gland is a gland in
Physical item.
No,
it's-
it isn't, dude. The pineal gland is the entrance.
The gland.
Listen.
It exists in our brain.
Simon, just hear me. Just hear me for a second.
We're
Just
having
hear
a
me.
fundamental disagreement here. It's okay.
You're not. Just hear me out for a moment.
Listening.
Your consciousness is independent of your brain and your body. Okay? It inhabits your body in a filtered sliver, okay? And that filtered sliver enters through the pineal gland and inhabits the rest, and then it spreads through the rest of your body in a very, very specific way. Okay, not this. You don't have as much soul in some parts of your body as you do in other parts. But
Frank, can I mention it's precisely why, for example, and I noticed this with myself, I don't know if you notice it, when I do, I can tell the difference that when I do the Shema before going to sleep, the Kriyat Shema Amitabh, how we call it?
Yeah.
There's a certain mitigation, I guess you can call it, of really crappy dreams that I normally would have, or just odd, strange dreams, let's say. I don't want to use the word crappy, but just odd and strange. But when I do the Shema before before I go to sleep, there's a really a big difference. I can tell the difference.
Yeah.
And and I think it's something to do with that realm, because our pineal, I guess our pineal gland's involved in that, and we're going to realms essentially. Obviously, it's a combination of things that we have seen. It's our because we know dreams are like combination of different things, subconscious things we see day to day, things that are not resolved from whenever. So we just like play those out in these scenes, over like a whatever 6-hour span or 7-hour span. So this Kriyat Shema just allows us to not be in that chaos, or it helps to just swim in like this kind of calm waters, let's say, for those 7 or 8 hours that we're sleeping.
So the from what I've learned, okay, directly from texts,
Mhm.
that the messed up dreams that people have are the klippa
Yeah.
that covers their consciousness as they go into the city. That in itself, or you're on your way to the city, but you're covered in layers and layers of klippa that you have covered yourself with in this world.
Yeah.
So the klippa, the schmutz has to be cleaned off as much as possible to have the clearest experience possible.
So it's interesting you say that, because it could be that when you do stimulate the pineal gland, when there is a DMT experience, that klippa is forced to be confronted with and oftentimes broken, just because it can't handle the influx of the spirit.
Okay, there's ways to do it. There are traditional ways of confronting the klippa and cleansing. But perhaps, DMT could be used to, for that purpose as well. I don't know.
It is being used.
Okay,
That's
all right.
what Dr. Strassman's report was.
Okay, so hang on.
Serious clipot, and they're being used to break.
You read his study? You read Straussman's study?
I've read a lot of it. Yeah, I
I'm
read.
not challenging you. I'm just asking.
I read no. I saw a whole documentary on it. Like I know who he is. This is not like an abstract that I read.
I've been meaning to read his study. I read part of it. There's a lot more detail in the actual study than in the movie. It's much more fascinating. But hold on. I just want, Greg, I apologize.
Yeah.
Alex, but just very important point, okay? And even Gerald Schroeder talks about this very often, that the brain is not where consciousness resides.
Sure.
The brain is a filter for the consciousness. It enters into the consciousness enters into the physical body through the pineal gland. Okay, so what Rabbi Bax was describing, if you look at that prayer again, he says, I want to go from outside in. I want to take myself from my external experience back through up, like inverted, right? Flipped, like back into and through the pineal gland into the city of Luz, in a sense, taking what we have here and spiritualifying it, because you're taking it with you in visions and in memories and as part of your personality. Like that's what the soul gets by being here, right? It interacts with all this physical stuff, which has form, very solid form, and a lot of detail and experiences and feelings and emotions. That's what stays with the consciousness. Once it abandons, it drops the physical substance and it goes back into this, what's called, quote unquote, the city of Luz. Now, the city of Luz is not a small place, and it has tons of layers and levels and fractals, just like everything else, okay? The city of Luz is basically the world of Yetzirah. And if you study the world of Yetzirah, you'll know it has a lot of neighborhoods. some friendlier than others. Okay, so the city of Liz is just a general term for outside of the physical body, which exits and enters through the pineal body. So it's not the pineal body that's generating anything. It's part of the experience when you're on the body side of it, but it takes you out, is the point. All right?
So now here's my question. Now you have this circus freak, Yuval Noah Harari, who talks about, humans are hackable animals.
Yeah, he wants to stop that. He wants to stop the ability of humans to do what we just talked about.
So, what's interesting, man? A lot of people talk about this, and I've had this as well, where, well, it's a combination of two things, kind of. First of all, like our phones, obviously they're listening to us. We get the ads for whatever we talk about, this whole thing, we all know it's real, some real stuff. But then there's another aspect where it just seems like the phones are built in such a way, whatever is in these phones, whatever technology is either in them or whatever the technology that these phones are, kind of connected to or absorbing, these phones are basically like kind of hacking us, it seems. They're sucking us in. And I think it's connected. It's a big, obviously a klipa in a way. I mean, it is a klipa. And I think it's connected to what we're talking about here. And so now the question is, we got these phones and we can't, so to speak, live without them, with the exception of Shabbos. Baruch Hashem, we have at least Shabbos, 24/6. So for 25 hours, we're not connected to these things, even though they're still listening to us when they're off, but that's a different story. But so now how the heck do we get rid of this literally physical, and even probably I would dare say now, spiritual blockage machine? These are blockage machines, mamish.
Discipline.
No, but like we have to get, actually it seems like we have to get rid of them completely. Like when the Hasidim, like Satmar or whoever, when they talk about not having smartphones, they're not just talking about the run-of-the-mill, guys going on porn sites and this and that. These Rebbes know what they're talking about. They know that this is a blockage machine to what we just talked about for the last, 40 minutes.
How is it a blockage machine?
Am I out of bounds?
It could be.
All the crap. It's just
But it doesn't have to be.
Well, listen, without going into 5G conspiracy theories, whatever waves that these things are absorbing and attracting and interacting with we're
That's your question, Greg.
My question is, what it just seems like these things are not only blocking us from experiencing what we just spoke about, it also seems like these things have hacked our brains and have hacked our consciousnesses.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
If like ideally we try to be people that strive to live valued lives, right?
Okay.
So say there's a person that is able to accomplish that to some degree and be consistent, living a valued life, whatever that is. That's values that say consistent with the 7 Noahide principles, etc. Torah, whatever. Then why? I guess there's a privacy concern, but let's throw that out the window just because it's kind of out the window already. What exactly are we hiding?
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about hiding or showing.
I'm with the concept of this is terrible that we're being hacked.
No. What I'm saying is it's not just terrible.
Let me just ask you. No, what I'm trying to understand. Let me just from your question is, how is the phone blocking?
What I feel
We've
like,
just been talking about.
What I feel like, and this is something that I've experienced. I don't know, Frank, maybe you've experienced it too. I don't know. I feel like there's a spiritual aspect, or in this case, I would say a dark spiritual aspect to the technology in these machines. Meaning, I feel like there's a ghost in the shell, if you will. And I feel like I feel like somebody, it sounds crazy. It sounds something out of,
I think that you can turn this machine into, you can turn it into a machine of good and turn it into a machine of evil.
that's not what
It's
that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. That's
I
not
hear
what
you.
what I mean is that the technology inside the machinery itself and whatever it's connecting to, wherever it's getting its, let's say internet power, computing power, actually I'm not talking about what the stuff you can see on the screen. I'm talking about the actual underpinnings of what's going on in there, quote unquote, mechanically, but it's not really mechanically. It has something.
A ruach ra.
It's what?
A ruach ra.
Yeah, I literally think that the people that are making these things have the not only ruach ra, but it's to the point where, when this Harari clown says humans are hackable animals, he's talking about that the phones can really get into our consciousness. Like
My instant kind of intuitive response to you is I just kind of get triggered is you could be right. You may be right. There is a certain ra present in these technologies just because of all the destruction these devices could create in individuals and relationships and children, etc. But I also believe that we have within ourselves koach to completely nullify that.
I hear what you're saying, but that's not what I'm not referring to something.
Like bittul,
Dude, I'm not referring to something figurative. Is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so even if it's
Frank,
there,
do you understand what I'm saying? Maybe Frank can I don't have the language for this.
You do. It's called the Sitra Achra gets it first.
Yeah.
So hold on a second. Hold on.
Yeah.
Rabbi Bax, he talks about this, in some of his essays, and he's saying, like, in the beginning, the story. Remember when God was supposedly cursing the man, the woman, and the nachash, their involvement, right, in that whole tree incident. So what does he say? He says to the nachash, "You'll eat dust." That means a lot of things, a lot, okay? But it has a lot to do with the job of the nachash in this world, okay? The nachash, the dust, the nachash is related to copper. The dust is related to silicon, okay? The way the nachash manifests in this world is very similar to the way he served Adam before everything went to crap. He served as Rabbi Bax, he describes it nicely as the highest level AI imaginable. That wasn't what he was, but that was like his function. He was the greatest servant. The Arizal and all these big rabbis, they make statements like this. It's a shame that what happened with the Nachash, because he was the greatest assistant that a person could possibly have, and the greatest transportation system, whatever that means, I'm not sure, okay? So the Nachash itself, the technology that we have now is the Nachash, but it's meant to serve us. It has to be rectified back to what it was when we were in the garden, which is just another word for Yetzirah and Beria, and even Atzilus. Okay, so spiritual technology. Remember, like that book, Abraham Sutton. So this is not figurative. Yeah. So if you think about it, what's our technology made out of? It's copper, and dust, right? Silicon.
Yeah,
that's the basis of it. And how is it distributed? In these snake-like things called wires. Various sizes. Okay, so that's the very nature of it itself. So it has to be cleansed, it has to be purified, meaning all we have to do is use it for holy purposes. like what we're doing right now. I believe that we're doing it right now. We're
Yeah.
using this information network, this system to communicate things that at least to us seem holy and righteous and that people should know about. This is the correct usage. We could probably, clean up our act a little bit. There's always room for improvement. But
Yeah.
generally, I think we're doing the right thing here. This would be an example of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whatever technology is, of course, it has, it's steeped in evil. It's soaked in zooma, however you say it. But when we use it for stuff like this, we're cleaning it.
Greg, it's like the narrative exists that this is evil and there could be evil there and there's evil behind it. That's a narrative and it has a lot of truth to it. It's a personal decision whether to be there and like kind of think about that.
I know what you're talking about. It's still not. I was telling you something completely. It's hard for me to explain it.
So the nature, let's say that
Difficult for me to
the
explain.
people
Meaning,
who are,
does that meaning if it's evil? Sorry, Frank. If it's evil, does that mean we have to get rid of it?
That's not what
I think what Greg is saying,
I'm
There's
talking
some
about. Something on
behavior
a
we have to
physical. I'm
do.
literally talking about something on a physical. It's a
Right.
spiritual, but it manifests in the physical. That's
I think what Greg is saying is that the people who are controlling the technology that we use are physically manipulating the physical substance of it to affect us negatively,
bingo. That's exactly what I'm saying.
like sending signals,
Yes.
all that
It
kind of
sounds, it's something, again, I qualified. I said the risk of getting into a 5G conspiracy discussion, that's what Frank just said is exactly what I think they're doing.
Greg, but believe it or not,
Yeah.
I didn't succeed. But what I was actually trying to, what I said was an attempt to address exactly what you're talking about.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Basically,
No, Greg. Actually, I am clear now what you mean.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't run it past them.
You wouldn't what?
I wouldn't run it past them.
Yeah.
But this
So
whole
my point-
concept
my
of the
point is that they're
calcifying
definitely-
the pineal gland.
listen,
What was
Alex. Here's the boiled down answer. It just hit me. Yes, they're definitely doing it, and they can't even not do it because
Yeah.
of the nature of who they are. They
Yeah.
can't not do it.
Yeah, they must.
It's like this concept of the calcifying of the pineal gland, which I perceive to be a block that a person may experience inside of themselves and experiencing spirituality in their lives. So the decalcification of it can increase the experience of spirituality and God, etc. And the things that I would think calcify our pineal gland is something like the phone, but not necessarily because there's some kind of magical substance in there that does that, but because just the act of being on a screen and having your attention span be constantly under attack, and just the way we process that could by the definition calcify your pineal glands. Could just we're so used to a certain kind of instant stimulation that it's almost counterintuitive for a spiritual experience. Thank you.
Yeah.
He he rests his case.
Like, what the hell did he just say? Silence or like?
No, the
inside.
defense rests. Gentlemen, it's basically, hold on. We've been at this for 2
You're
hours,
saying- you're
2
saying
hours
what
and
you're
45
thinking.
minutes.
You're literally saying what I'm thinking.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
How long have we been at this?
2 hours and 45 minutes, almost 3 hours.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, time flies when you're talking.
That's impressive.
Time flies when you're talking about doing drugs and not actually doing.
This was an impromptu podcast. We were planning something else actually.
This honestly, I think this is one of the better podcasts we've had, and in general that the podcast itself has experienced.
I think that if you upon review, you'll see that we didn't have a single bad one, and all.
No,
of
we
them
didn't. We didn't. It's just a matter of what's what's better than the other.
No, I don't. I think that you'll see. Like you'll be surprised. Like
Yeah.
it's all right. So let's It's arrivederci, this one.
Arrivederci.
You're there too.
Should we get a DMT expert to come on and speak as a
You know
guest?
what I'm thinking? We wanted to bring in for a very long time already. I mean, we brought him before, but we haven't had him in a while. Our friend Paul, who's in Florida now.
And
I'd like to make a
who's
sound.
Paul?
Right?
Our friend Paul Carpenter. He understands this discussion.
I want to blow the shofar for a second, okay?
Okay.
I have to blow it really low.
It sounded like a mosquito was trying to, like,
It's not a mosquito, it's a shofar.
it was a mosquito who tried to end Rosh Hashanah.
No.
I'm kidding.
Just so you guys know, there's a case out of
Clipified my
California.
shofar.
What?
Continue. Go ahead.
no, there's a case out of California in the United States Supreme Court
Mhm.
where the United States Supreme Court, I think, affirmed a decision from the California Supreme, or maybe even reversed it. I think they reversed it.
Mhm.
And the U.S. Supreme Court held that not so much per se DMT, but ayahuasca is legal for religious purposes.
Could be.
No, it is in fact
okay.
true.
Listen, I for one have not heard. I don't even know what is the law in terms of criminalization of DMT. Because when I say that people are having meetups and people are talking about it in the open,
It's illegal still.
it's still a controlled substance.
DMT is a controlled substance.
So what? So how
However-
is it that people just have like the balls to, like, hey, we're having a meetup here. We're having a meetup here. Come to this house. Come over here. Go on this
Well,
event. Go.
I don't know what kinds of meetups you're talking about, but if you're talking about people getting together
Yeah.
and like having like ayahuasca ceremonies and stuff
Yeah.
like that, that, from what I understand, there's a tremendous amount of growth in the way that's spreading.
No, I'm saying that, and it seems like the
The
cops don't really
authorities,
care.
I think the nature of it is that the authorities are not really interested in it because it tends to be less of a money making.
It's like in the privacy of people's homes, and it's more for the experience.
Meaning it's not
It's not like Pablo Escobar cocaine.
no, exactly. I think the nature of the whole thing is not conducive to that.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is a Supreme Court decision that actually says that utilization, and I think it's not just ayahuasca, mushrooms, and I think peyote with the American Indians.
Yeah.
They use it for religious ceremonies, and there is no reasonable basis to restrict this use if these people have a culture that goes back thousands of years to use it for,
By
religious
the way, I remember 10 years ago, I don't know, you probably remember this, there was articles written in Israel talking about, there was some like professor, one of these secular professors in Israel, I think it was Tel Aviv, talking about how Moshe Rabbeinu, it could be that he used peyote, something equivalent to peyote,
Oh boy.
to achieve his, what is it called? The experience that he had on the,
That's a
Harsina.
that's a very profane thing to say.
Okay. Why?
No,
I mean, why would it be profane? I mean, it could be just like whatever, but I don't know about profane.
It is profane because you didn't need the people at the highest levels who really understood and explored the inner reaches of consciousness from every aspect. They don't need substances to do it.
Can I read to you this? Actually, it's like literally a paragraph. It's one paragraph. It says, according to the Hebrew University in Jerusalem cognitive psychologist Benny Shannon, this is from 2008, Moses was very probably under the influence of psychedelic drugs when he heard God deliver the Ten Commandments and when he saw the burning bush. In a study published in the Time and Mind Journal of Philosophy, Shannon says that such mind-altering substances played an integral role in the religious rites of Israelites in biblical times. Shannon points out that the acacia tree, mentioned frequently in the Bible, contains one of the most psychedelic substances known to man. Shannon developed this theory after experiencing
DMT.
firsthand the effects of hallucinogen ayahuasca used in the religious rituals in Brazil. The experience of Moses includes the hallmarks of a psychedelic experience. So now there's exodus of the senses, The Bible says the burning bush burnt without being consumed. Professor Shannon says drugs alter the perception of time. Thunder, lightning, and blaring of a trumpet accompany the delivering 10 commandments. Drugs blur the senses and cause deep religious and spiritual feelings. Moses' skin shone after an encounter with God. Skin and eyes often appear brighter when under the influence. Moses' brother's Aaron rod was transformed into a serpent. Objects changing into snakes are a common feature of hallucinations. Take the story of the burning bush in Exodus, which was not consumed by the fire, which Moses attributed to God. Telltale signs of drug-induced visions include a loss of sense of time, seeing bright lights or fire, blurring of senses, and profound religious and spiritual feelings. Indeed, Shannon is not the first academic to speak of the spirituality that can be induced by psychedelics. In January 1st, I
Listen,
wrote a post on scientific.
Greg,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What you're reading may have some merit in terms of what it's, in my opinion, in terms of what it's talking about,
Yeah.
some of the utility of psychedelics, but to start making conclusions and that.
No, I'm not making conclusions. I'm just
Not you.
Yeah.
For them to start making conclusions, that's what Moshe
I know.
Rabbeinu experienced. That's
No, I know.
stretch.
I know.
Greg, can I
I just think it's interesting. I just
It
think,
almost like disqualifies the whole thing. Which
to
is
be honest
fine.
with you, I don't even think that there's. I'm not even talking about like what these guys are saying, but I think that even if, how should I put this? Even if Moshe Rabbeinu had ingested something as like an aid, you want to say, like I'm not even talking about what these guys are saying because they're just totally changing the whole. They're flipping the script here. But I don't even see a problem with that because I think
there's a problem. Can I
okay.
explain the problem?
Okay.
First of all, when you read the prophetic literature, the prophetic techniques, the state of mind that is being described, it is the opposite of intoxication.
I'm not talking about intoxication.
I feel like I can't finish a sentence.
I know, but I'm just trying to clarify what I said.
Hang on a second.
You can finish a sentence, man. I'm just
all right.
clarifying.
So okay. All right. So having let's say tripping on hallucinogens. Okay. Is there somebody knocking on your door?
Yeah.
Want to answer it? Hello?
He already went to answer it. No, I'm gonna let him knock. Screw it.
Wait, Greg, you back?
Yes.
Okay. So basically the state of mind that the highest that our prophets had was the exact opposite direction of any type of hallucination. It was the most sober-minded, responsible state of mind that a human being can be into. You understand? God does not communicate with recreational, with drunks or things of that nature, okay? Because when he communicates his will, it has to be only to the most serious people with the most sober minds possible, okay? And God already created us with any type of chemical stimulation that we need to reach the level of objective reality is already included within us.
Oh, Frankie, I'm sorry. I have to disagree with you immensely.
Okay, but you gotta disagree
completely.
Disagree with me when I'm
The
done.
Lubavitcher Rebbe said, "Say
Disagree
for
with me when I'm done talking. Stop being a prick.
I thought you. Oh my gosh.
When you hear the recording of this, you'll see how obnoxious your interruptions are.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so
am I the talker and you're the shusher now?
I'm not the shusher. I'm going to be the person who doesn't let myself get steamrolled while I'm talking.
Sorry.
All right. So basically, when you have the most sober-minded people who God communicates with for a very important reason. First of all, they're the ones who have the potential and the ability to understand the message, the sober-minded message that God is sending, and they have to be able to communicate it and transmit it to people with the highest level of credibility. Okay? People in ancient times, they also knew about recreational drugs, and they would have different experiences. And people also would see somebody who's like, let's say, ranting and raving, say, oh, and then they make that sign like, oh, I guess this guy is drunk. Oh, this guy must be on crack, whatever the ancient version of crack was. They had that back then too. They're not idiots. See, the guy that wrote that article, or the person who proposed that, is doing his best to marginalize the seriousness that Torah should be taken with. That whole article was specifically created to be like, yeah, Moshe, he had some crazy experience. He got drunk. He smoked some burning bush. And that's why he had his experience. I think he smoked the burning bush. You know, everybody's going to make wise ass comments like that. It's to marginalize the Torah and the seriousness.
I agree with you, but what I'm trying to say is I'm not even referring to that what these guys say. What I'm trying to say is that we just had this whole 1 hour discussion about people using, you know, DMT to go to this place. So
he was saying that the people using it were going there, but without realizing it, and they were taking their stuff with them.
He was also saying that in the prophet Isaiah, it says that the well springs from below will be unleashed and God will expedite the process of the messianic revelation by making accessible to people ways and means through science and technology and through DMT and things like ayahuasca in order to expedite the individual and humanity's steps towards the messianic revelation.
I think what Frank is saying is that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't.
And I just think
of that.
no, forget about the Moshe Rabbeinu thing. That's not. I agree
No,
with Frank. I agree. That stuff is kind of nutty.
He didn't need any of that. That's basically.
Although I did hear that I'm not sure if this is reliable or not, but how Pharaoh was known as the most powerful shaman of the world, and how it makes sense to some degree that Moshe Rabbeinu may have learned something in growing up in his castle that he may have then integrated into his mission from taking from Pharaoh. You know, those kinds of things. But that's not the point. What I'm saying is that this whole idea that our body has everything it needs within itself, and we should, drugs and yes, there's drugs and there's terrible stuff there, but we're not talking about that.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that. We're not talking about recreational partying and taking drugs, and that's not what the conversation is about. That's not what Robert Bax was talking about.
Okay, Rob, but I'm not saying that's what he was talking about. What I'm saying is that
there's an availability of things that are not necessarily internally generated in us that God gives us. The Rebbe said, "Say 4 l'chaims."
So listen, if you watch DMT, the spirit molecule, you'll hear the testimonies of the people who were involved in the actual studies, okay, and the experiences that they had. They were very lucid. They were very, they kept describing like the textiles were more real than real. The colors were more colorful than the colors we experienced.
You know, it's hard.
Wait, please. But the visions that they had were like, they had like women, bald, like Egyptian priestesses from the neck, no, from the waist up, but below the waist was a pickup truck. Or bouncing balls, right? That would talk and leap into, they could not, it was very beautiful and it was very entertaining experience for them, but they didn't know what it meant or where they were, or there was no direction to it because they couldn't understand, because their brain, their mind, their consciousness couldn't process what they were actually seeing. So their brain, their mind translated what they were seeing into this crazy stuff.
I mean, I'm at this weird place because I've tried this stuff, right? I have personal experiences with some of these things, and it as a matter of fact, it came through referral from Rabbi Bax. And I've been wary to bring it up here in the podcast context, but I've been kind of toying back and forth with whether or not it's something I want to discuss in a public setting. And I kind of realized at this point, maybe if we're speaking in a context of truth fanatics, so I'm just going to speak my truth, right?
Yeah.
And I've tried these things, and everything that Rabbi Bags described is very real. That's really what it is. And it's not one of those things where it's a shortcut to get somewhere. It is what the prophet says, at least the way I experienced and some of the experiences I had, where it's almost like the klipot that you have inside of you that are blocking yourself from your own actualizations. You're kind of confronted with it. You're confronted with your ego with nowhere to go, and deal with it. And in the context, you can actually pick up some skills, how you can integrate into your real day-to-day life, and how to deal with things that, we're kind of always dealing you. I know I'm speaking in vague context terms, but it's very hard for people to speak about these things if they've never experienced them. And just listening to some of the feedback that you were saying, it sounds the way I was for many, many years, growing up in the Russian world, growing up in America, growing up in these spaces where these things were completely demonized. And the truth is, there is reason to demonize them because they had destroyed kids' lives. They really had. But just like anything else, when it comes to intentions, when it comes to purpose, when it comes to what is the reason people are, going into these experiences, that makes a huge difference between it being a drug and it being actual medicine.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
I've already explained to you before. We literally had this conversation.
And I asked you,
and you said the same thing last time.
Last sentence, I think it's a limiting belief to say I have everything inside of me and I don't need anything outside of myself to help me achieve an experience. And that includes perhaps having a spiritual experience.
I couldn't disagree with you more. And allow me to respond, please.
And it also could be Moshe Rabbeinu did have access to these things, but not in the way that lady described it.
Okay.
Listen.
I don't suspend that as being completely impossible.
So hang on a second.
We can't. How could we?
You tell me when I can start talking. How about that? That'll be a good system.
So, yeah, I don't understand why this has to be. Sorry, why you have to get like defensive?
No, I hear the Alex. There's a little bit of might be a rhythm problem because you talk and then you'll pause for like 10 seconds and then I am waiting for Frank to start talking.
I'm sorry, yeah.
And then you start again. So it's like either you're talking or you're not talking.
No.
It's fine. It's just a weird rhythm,
I hear you. It's getting later. It's getting later past bedtime. Go ahead, Frank. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we're talking about truth fanatics. Let us at least focus on the details of what we heard Rabbi Bax himself say directly. This is what he chose in a documentary about using DMT. He chose to emphasize that he was developing technique to use the endogenous DMT. That means the DMT that we were born with already in our body to generate the pathway to the actual true objective city of Luz. That was his primary message, at least in the videos that we were reading about, and also in the books that he published. Now, hold on a second, please. Okay, so I don't have a Russian attitude about anything. I'm not against the use of ayahuasca. I'm not against it. Okay. However, I would say that before making any statements, right, try his primary message, Rabbi Bax's primary message, the thing that he worked hard on for many, many years to develop, right? He wasn't advocating for the use of DMT. He He wasn't advocating for it. He may have sometimes thought it would be a good idea, maybe if a person has, an initial experience with DMT, they'll know that there's something to discover and something more to explore, and hopefully that they will take that curiosity and try to take it to the highest level possible using what God blessed us with already. Okay, that's my interpretation of why Rabbi Bax gave you the advice that he gave you. But at some point, but he would definitely tell you that you should try the method that he promoted and worked on, specifically in the way that he mentions that it should be used. At least, like
He's not advocating for the use of this. He's just stating that the emergence of it in our world and the accessibility of it and the availability of it is reflective of the prophecy that God is going to expedite the messianic revelation.
Yeah, it could introduce people to the idea that there really is something more, but then they have
Exactly.
but then
And
they have
you don't need to go there more than one time. You don't need to go there at all. There's ways to do without it.
Actually, we need to live there. That's the future. That's part of Olam Haba.
You have to start somewhere.
Okay, exactly. So, but I think that meditation, that prayer that he developed, that was his idea of the highest level of experiencing that. And he wants people, he said it himself, he wants people to try to use that prayer and to generate the traditional pathway of the prophets. That they did not use substances to achieve their contact with the upper world.
So I don't know.
Bart Tzadok, by the way, Bart Tzadok is one of these guys. He's very, very, very much against any mind-altering substances. And he's the primary guy that teaches the prophetic tradition. Like,
I'm not.
Hang on. So based on what he learned from yeshivas that he went to, including the one where Rav Kaduri and people of his like, the traditions that they received, the meditations that they practiced, they didn't use, the prophets didn't use substances. They used self-purification, purifying the soul, the mind. They used meditative techniques, and they used their hearts and their minds to achieve their communication with God. And we can do that too.
We can. You're absolutely right. But we live in a generation where we need help. There's very few people have the ability to be in a yeshiva setting like Rav Kaduri and all these things. It's just the reality. It's just.
I got you, before saying that, you got to give it at least a shot. You got to, let's say, be like, Frank, I tried it for a year.
Listen, it's nothing to do with me. I don't want to be the focus of this conversation. We're talking about generally. I'm good. I'm golden.
But I'm saying,
I'm perfect.
When I'm saying I'm speaking about man in general. So basically, what I'm saying is that a person, he could search for a little bit of help after trying for a very, very long time to connect the traditional way. And if they're honest with themselves and they really tried their hardest and they're still not able to, I'm not convinced the traditional way is completely exclusionary of certain kind of holistic substances that can enhance, cognitive experience. Actually, the onus is on you to prove that any substances were ever used by any of the prophets. Find a source, find something.
I'm not saying they were. I have no idea. I'm just not convinced they were.
I don't think Alex is saying they were. I think Alex is saying that in our generation that we have them, and that we're such quote unquote cripples, a lot of us, that it's just
There's a reason it's emerging onto the scene now. This stuff has been around for thousands of years.
Obviously, we have to try
coming to the scene.
Obviously, we have to try to do what it is that we're going to do without them. But there are some people that are, it might open kind of the gateway. Let's say they do it once, and then after that they won't need it. Right?
Let me just tell you guys.
Yeah, that's what you said. So,
guys, what's happening now is this stuff has been around for thousands of years in the jungles. What's happening now is it's brought back, it's been around, it's all over Israel, it's all over the United States. There's ayahuasca ceremonies going on every single week all over the city, no matter who you are, and it's spreading into the Orthodox communities. There's numerous people in the Orthodox world that are doing this, and they're getting like rabbinical support, some of them. And like not the communities themselves, but individuals that are participating in some of these things.
Yeah.
Okay, I hear you. I'm not against it, but I want to just make one thing.
It's just that's all. It's not for everybody. It's at all definitely not for everybody at all. But
Okay.
after it's for some people, it's not for them. Period.
I'm gonna start talking now.
Go ahead.
What I'm
This is
saying,
More
what I'm saying,
complicated than it has to be.
tell me when you're ready.
Almost. Just give it 10 more seconds. Collect yourself.
I think you need to collect yourself. Возьми себя в руки хотя бы один раз. Okay, so listen. Мой юный друг. Okay, so we have special access to stuff that the world doesn't have yet. As a Jewish person who has access to Torah, okay, you have special knowledge and special access available to you that the rest of the world doesn't have. The rest of the world should use DMT. They should use ayahuasca to connect and to have an understanding that there's more than what meets the eye to the world. There's more to experience. The world itself is much larger, both in dimension and in consciousness and in every way. And if DMT or ayahuasca can make that happen, and it is making it happen, and I agree, and I support its use. What I'm saying is that there is better and superior ways to do it. We have that available to us. We could just decide to try it out and see what happens. That's literally all I'm saying. I have nothing.
I hear you. What just quick point on that is they're not mutually exclusive. One does not take away from the other. As a matter of fact, the Torah enhances that experience, and having those experiences could enhance one's person's relationship to the Torah, one's person's experience of Hashem. Or it's almost like to say that because I have Torah and mitzvahs and all these meditations and all these traditions, therefore I don't need anything else. No, opposite. That stuff can enhance, though. They support each other. It's like the blockchain.
Can I ask you a question? Why wasn't
it's not a competition?
Why wasn't it widely used, if that's the case? Do you think that
because God wasn't ready? God wasn't ready to allow it.
You think that the rabbis didn't know about ayahuasca? You think they didn't?
I don't know whether I have no idea. I'm not here to advocate
Frank, for the same reason that for the longest time, people didn't have access to, until we got like Hasidus, until Kabbalah was brought down to layman's terms, until Hashem opened that.
It's almost like
humanity wasn't ready.
Humanity was always people that had it, right?
In some ways, Greg, it's what you were saying.
General humanity wasn't ready.
It's almost an antidote. We're saying these phones are blocking are creating energy that are blocking our ability to experience spirituality. And now here you have all of a sudden these natural substances that are reversing that. It's almost like emerging on the scene as a and I don't know if this is what's happening. It's kind of just the conversation is going in this direction. Yeah. It having the reverse effect of the dullification of consciousness that is experiencing in our reality.
If you ever go on, Joe Rogan's just clips, his YouTube clips of his different shows, there's like people in the comment section who like to joke around that they're like, oh man, I'm surprised Joe didn't mention DMT in this clip. And it's funny because it's just like a thing. They joke about it. They're surprised that he didn't mention it in that clip, but it's like it's a thing, It's just a thing that became a thing in the consciousness of people.
Can I introduce something, guys? And this is bold, I think, a little bit. I'm gonna be bold. This is the real woke.
Awake.
I'm not. What I mean is,
No.
this is really what's happening in the world now. This whole ayahuasca, that's just a tiny piece. The technological explosion, the AI, what's happening, what the impending world, all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's this. It's all part of the same revelation that's happening.
Yeah, of course.
And this is also, and it's just, and just like anything else, but I think it's a klippus noiga. I think it's a klippus noiga. You could use it for bad.
Yeah.
You could use it for good.
Okay, Alex, can I ask you a simple question directly? Is it out of the question for you to ever attempt to try to connect without using ayahuasca?
Opposite. My experience with those things has now, I feel like, made me significantly more willing to give it a shot without anything else, just on my own.
But what I mean is specifically to you to give it a true shot. Let's say, for example, like that meditation that Rabbi Baxt that we.
Well, I already do. I mean, I do certain
Frank, can I give
meditations
you,
that I do
Frank, can I give you an
consistently.
analogy?
No, I don't feel like my question was understood. What I'm saying is to use that particular prayer in the way that he intended, to use the natural endogenous DMT that we're born with, and in combination with that prayer to reach the city of Luz, as the terminology is used. Is that out of the question to give that a real shot?
Of course not.
All right, that's it.
Frank, the only thing I will say, I'm just going to give you an analogy. I think I'm trying to, from what I understand correctly, what Alex said is that, I remember like 20 years ago when I was in college, I went to a psychologist. He prescribed, actually it was a psychiatrist, because he prescribed to me Strattera. It's an ADD medication. And Strattera, what was different about Strattera? Strattera is not like, what is it called? It's not like Ritalin or any of these other things, because those things are what's called inhibitors,
Yeah.
Meaning you have to keep taking them in order for them to work. Strattera, or things like Strattera, because Strattera ended up being whatever. What are they called? Black label, whatever it's called. So similar things like them are designed so that you don't have to take them anymore. They basically, it's basically a jump start for your neurons, for them to work properly on their own. So I think what Alex was trying to say was that, if anything, I don't know, granted, I don't know how many times you took this stuff, but let's just assume even if you would have taken it once, you didn't take it once, you took it more than once, I'm assuming.
Listen,
Let's say
all you need to do is one time.
I'm saying, even if you did it once, so what he's saying is even that once can now enable you to not need it to do it anymore, and for your consciousness to now be empowered to
release a few clipot that have been holding
yeah,
you back.
it's like training wheels, and then now that you remove the training wheels, and now you could do what Rabbi Bax is talking about, which is just going on your own. That's essentially that's what analogy I thought.
And it's interesting because I went back. This goes back a few years when I was first interested in the possibility of trying this stuff. Just because of what I was learning about its ability to help with certain kinds of anxieties or stresses, whatever. And me and Frank had a whole back and forth. And it was Frank who actually suggested to me to reach out to Rabbi Baxt. And I did. And Rabbi Baxt actually said just that in his email, in the same conversation that he was putting me in touch with these Jewish groups that do some of these ayahuasca stuff here locally. He was saying it's a good entry point into his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning you can get the experience, you can get a little bit of an opening. It's almost like the analogy of being in a dark forest, being stuck in whatever it is that all of us may be stuck in our lives. Yeah. And the light goes on for a minute and you see where to go.
Yeah.
And then the light goes back up and now you know where to go. But eventually
he wants you to actually engage in the method that he teaches.
Eventually, what one conclusion I reached from some of these experiences that I have, and these things are called ceremonies, right? These ayahuasca ceremonies, is that, and it's a real process going through that, and it's a beautiful, powerful process. And the main conclusion of it all is the real ceremony is life. There's no substances. There's no nothing. Life is the ceremony. God gave us this life, and we have to learn how to navigate it without losing our shit and prospering
Yeah. Yeah.
the best that we can, and being
I
having
can
a
say-
valued
I can
life.
say a lot of to that, which is a little bit heavy, but let's just put it this way, man. There's a lot of people that I know who are, how should I put this? Let's just say, I know people, if it wasn't for the fact that they know or they learned about what happens to a Jewish neshama if it takes, so to speak, its own life, they would have done that. As for shalom, you know what I mean? And they're just trying to get through life. You know what I mean?
So these play
It's hard.
anyway. God. Everyone should have a refuah shleima. And another thing that I learned, and it's one of the most powerful, profound things I learned, is that the struggle that every person has in life, it's shared.
Yeah,
We
sure.
all, it's all one struggle. It's just we all have our own life narratives and stories that we attach ourselves to, and most of the time we create these narratives out of nothing.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, we're usually the ones that hold us back. And
A lot of it is inner negative beliefs. A lot of it is just words that we latched onto that people told us when whenever we old we were.
but the answer is you could break through. You could break through out of all of that because what is also shared is the oneness, and it's the love that everyone shares. And that, in the end of the day, is it's baked into the struggle. Inside the struggle is baked in the geula. Only in the struggle do you get to the geula.
Yeah. Well, on that note,
Thank you for letting me share.
yes.
Guys, only love,
This
spreading
was
love to everybody. We are in Yesod. We should all
Oh
we
yeah,
should
big
we
time.
should, we should solidify our connection. A very powerful, special time, Yesod. And
I'm not gonna say what tonight count was yet. I'm gonna say that yesterday was. I will tell you yesterday what was. Yesterday was 39. Yesterday's count was 39. So today is an interesting number. Tonight is an interesting number.
yesterday was Netzach Shebe Yesod.
Tonight is Chotr B'Yesod.
Yep. According to the Rashash, there's a tikkun to say every single day, the week of Yesod, to do tikkun karas.
Interesting. I might just do that. And you know what's interesting?
It actually may be going. It may be happening for Rabbi Milston Shul tomorrow night. There was one on Saturday night, and there's one happening tomorrow night.
So
And
my birth parsha is Vayigash, which is Yosef revealing himself, to his brothers.
Mhm.
And it was actually kind of a crazy thing where like this is a few years ago, I dated somebody whose birthday fell out on Yesod Shebe Yesod 41.
Tomorrow.
Which was kind of crazy to me. And whatever, I won't elaborate.
That's
Frank,
an intense energy.
yeah, and Frank knows what I mean, but I won't elaborate.
Wait, are we past midnight?
No, it's 11 o'clock, 11:10.
Mr. Franco, happy almost birthday, man.
Oh, wait, you're Yesod Shebe Yesod? Wait, no, you're.
His English birthday is in an hour.
Huh. When was your Hebrew birthday?
So
Coming up.
it was 2 days ago.
Oh, dude, Mazel Tov.
Thank you,
Did I
sir.
tell you Mazel Tov?
Yeah, you did. I think we talked
Oh.
about it.
Wait,
Oh, okay.
When was it? What is it? Like Gevurah Yisrael?
Yeah, that's right.
Interesting.
Wow.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
You're gonna start evaluating my horoscope.
I'm gonna start evaluating your Omer. I'm also an Omer baby. I got a good one.
No.
Anyway, I think according to the Jewish horoscope, I am a bull, a Taurus.
Yes. I'm Tevet, which is actually Capricorn by Hebrew, but by secular, I'm Sagittarius. December 9th.
Yeah, those people usually confuse. Like they look at the American calendar and like, yeah, I'm a certain sign, but the Hebrew calendar, they're not. So what do you do, man?
Well, so they say that your secular birthday is what you are in terms of physicality on the outside, and then your Hebrew is what you are. That's your spiritual. That's your really.
Where'd you hear that?
I don't know. Some chick told me.
Oh,
You know how that works.
Must be true.
Yes, it's canonized in the
It
book
depends.
of. It's canonized in the book of Shidduchim.
It depends at what point of your interaction
It
with
depends
her
how.
it was communicated.
No, it doesn't. It just depends how hot she was. That's all that matters. That's all that.
No, but I'm taking it deeper, meaning at what point of your interaction
know.
with her did you get this information?
I don't really remember.
Was it on the first date or
It was like
somewhere down the line?
no, it was one of these like I'm at a Shabbaton and I'm talking to this girl and she's telling me this stuff and I'm just kind of like, oh, interesting, as I'm not paying attention to anything she's saying.
As you're looking through her into her soul.
Yes. You could say that. You could say that. In any event.
Yeah, there's a singles thing happening in Crown Heights this weekend.
Singles thing in Crown Heights.
Gotta get married, bro. It's time.
Well, I'm gonna do what Wayne Gretzky did the best. Pass. All right.
Have a good night, guys. Thank you so much. Stay white.
Let's hope, Steve. All right.
I don't mean that in any way a racist way. I'm sorry. Please don't
Listen, you could just say like Chris
don't
Rock,
delete me.
It's all right.
Don't delete me.
It's all right because it's all.
Don't delete me.
It's all right because it's all white.
That's funny. Okay, guys. Bye.
Well, let's hope. Good night. Later.